Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What If. So in this video, we will see what if Ben 10 absorbed Kevin's powers. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Transfer. The abandoned hybrid outpost looked dead as always, its weird alien architecture jutting up against the night sky like broken fingers. Ben Tennyson crouched behind a chunk of fallen wall, the familiar weight of the Omnitrix on his wrist somehow comforting as he watched the suspicious lights flickering inside. "I'm telling you guys, something's definitely happening in there," Ben whispered, glancing at his cousin Gwen and her boyfriend Kevin. "Those aren't just random power fluctuations." Kevin snorted, running a hand through his dark hair. "Yeah, because abandoned alien bases randomly light up like Christmas trees all the time." "Real genius observation there, Tennyson. Could you two focus for 5 minutes?" Gwen hissed, her eyes glowing briefly with mana energy as she scanned the structure. "There's definitely tech activating in there, but I can't tell if anyone's actually inside." Ben's fingers hovered over the Omnitrix. "Only one way to find out." "Wait," Kevin started, but Ben had already slammed his palm down on the watch face. The familiar green light washed over him as his DNA twisted and transformed. In seconds, where Ben had been crouching now stood a blue-black velociraptor-like alien with wheels for feet and a streamlined helmet. XLR-8. Ben's altered voice announced before he zoomed toward the base entrance in a blur of motion. Kevin groaned. "Every single time." "You should be used to it by now," Gwen said, creating a mana platform beneath their feet to carry them after her cousin. "Doesn't make it less annoying." Inside the base, Ben zipped through darkened corridors, his enhanced perception making the world around him seem like it was moving in slow motion. The source of the lights was deeper inside, past chambers filled with abandoned hybrid tech and collapsed sections of ceiling. Something about the energy pattern felt wrong, not hybrid tech, something else. He skidded to a stop in what looked like a central chamber, where a small device sat on a pedestal, glowing with pulses of purple-white energy. "Huh," Ben said, lifting his XLR-8 visor. "That's definitely not hybrid tech." The device was about the size of a basketball, rounded but with crystalline protrusions that shifted and realigned themselves every few seconds. Each realignment sent out a new pulse of energy that rippled through the room. "Ben." Gwen's voice echoed as she and Kevin finally caught up. "You need to stop racing ahead without, whoa." She stopped mid-sentence when she spotted the device. Kevin whistled low. "That's some serious alien tech. Definitely not hybrid. Looks almost like." "Like what?" Ben asked, starting to circle the device. "Don't get too close," Kevin warned, approaching cautiously. "It kinda reminds me of cerebrocrustacean tech, but modified. Those crab guys don't share their toys easily." Gwen's hands glowed pink as she tried to sense the energy. "It's putting out some kind of quantum field. I can't get a read on what it's supposed to do." "Only one way to find out," Ben said with a grin, reaching toward the device. Kevin lunged forward. "Tennyson, don't, too late." Ben's XLR-8 claw touched one of the crystal protrusions. The device immediately pulsed brighter, the crystals spinning rapidly and realigning themselves into a new configuration. A beam of energy shot out, hitting the Omnitrix symbol on Ben's chest. "Ah!" Ben cried out, trying to pull away, but the energy beam held him in place. The Omnitrix began to spark and flash wildly between green and purple. Kevin didn't hesitate. He rushed forward, his hand touching a metal support beam as he ran, his skin instantly taking on the properties of the metal. "Hang on." He grabbed Ben's arm, trying to pull him free, but the moment he made contact, the energy beam split into two, one still connected to the Omnitrix, the other latching onto Kevin's chest. Both of them screamed as the energy intensified. Gwen threw up a mana shield, trying to break the connection, but the energy simply flowed through her constructs like they weren't even there. "What's happening?" Ben gasped, feeling like his molecules were being pulled apart and rewoven. Kevin couldn't even answer, his metal form flickering as the energy seemed to be stripping away something fundamental from him. The device suddenly emitted a high-pitched whine, and the beams connecting it to both Ben and Kevin intensified blindingly. Gwen had to shield her eyes. When she looked again, the beams had vanished, and both Ben and Kevin collapsed to the floor. The device's lights dimmed to a faint glow, the crystals slowing their rotation. Ben! Kevin! Gwen ran to them, kneeling between their prone forms. Are you okay? Ben groaned, the Omnitrix timing out and returning him to human form in a flash of red light. Feel like I got hit by a truck. A truck full of other trucks. Kevin pushed himself up slowly, his metal coating gone. Something's wrong, he said immediately, staring at his hands. He reached out to touch the floor, concentrating, but nothing happened. No absorption of material. My powers. Ben sat up, rubbing his head. What about them? They're gone, Kevin said, a note of panic in his voice. He touched the metal beam again, nothing. I can't absorb anything. Gwen helped Kevin to his feet. Maybe it's temporary. That device might have just disrupted your abilities. Kevin shook his head. No, it's different. It feels empty. Like something got ripped out. Ben stood up, wobbling slightly. He reached for the Omnitrix, which seemed normal again. The watch seems fine, at least. He twisted the dial, selecting an alien, and slammed it down. Green light flashed, but instead of one of his usual transformations, Ben remained human, except his entire body had turned into solid stone, exactly like when Kevin absorbed rock. What the? Ben stared at his hands, now made of solid rock. I didn't select this. Kevin's eyes widened. That's my power. You're doing what I do. Ben touched the wall, concentrating, and to everyone's shock, his stone skin shifted, taking on the metallic properties of the wall material instead. Okay, this is weird, Ben said, examining his now metallic arm. I selected Humungosaur, not, whatever this is. Gwen looked between them, connecting the dots. The device. I think it transferred Kevin's powers to you, Ben. Kevin stepped back, his face pale. You've gotta be kidding me. Hey, I didn't ask for this. Ben protested, the Omnitrix symbol glowing on his chest. He slapped it, returning to human form. But I have to admit, that was kind of cool. Kevin glared. Cool. Those are MY powers, Tennyson. I know. I'm just saying, a crash from outside interrupted their argument. Gwen's eyes glowed as she extended her senses. We've got company. Forever Knights, looks like at least a dozen. Kevin instinctively reached for the wall to absorb the material, then froze when nothing happened. The realization hit him all over again, he was powerless. Ben twisted the Omnitrix dial. I've got this. Ben, wait, Gwen cautioned. We don't know how that device affected the Omnitrix. Maybe you should, he'd already slammed down the dial. Green light flashed, and instead of an alien transformation, Ben's body remained human but began to glow with energy. Whoa, Ben said, looking at his hands as energy crackled around them. This feels different. That's my energy absorption, Kevin said, recognition in his eyes. Be careful with that, Tennyson. It's not as simple as it looks. Ben wasn't listening. He was already heading toward the entrance where the knights were breaking in. Time to test this out. Ben, wait. Both Gwen and Kevin called after him, but he was already gone. The Forever Knights had set up portable drilling equipment at the main entrance, breaking through the sealed doors. 6 knights in full armor looked up as Ben approached, energy still crackling around his body. It's Tennyson, one of them shouted. But something's different. Doesn't matter, another replied, raising an energy lance. Take him down. The knight fired, but instead of dodging, Ben reached out his hand. The energy beam struck his palm, and vanished, absorbed directly into Ben's body. The crackling aura around him intensified. "Oh man, that feels awesome," Ben grinned, flexing his fingers. "Let me guess, you guys want the alien tech inside?" "Sorry, but that's under plumber jurisdiction now." The knights exchanged nervous glances but raised their weapons regardless. Four energy beams shot toward Ben simultaneously. He spread his arms wide, absorbing all of them, the power rushing through him like an adrenaline hit. "My turn," Ben said, his voice deepening slightly as he extended his hands. Energy blasted from his palms, far more intense than what he'd absorbed, slamming two knights against the far wall and melting parts of their armor. "Ben!" Gwen called, running up behind him with Kevin. "What are you doing? You could have seriously hurt them." Ben blinked, looking at the knights who were now scrambling away in retreat, abandoning their equipment. I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do." He stared at his hands, the energy glow slowly fading. "That was intense." Kevin approached, face grim. "That's how it starts. The energy gives you a rush. Makes you feel invincible." "I'm fine," Ben insisted, though something in his eyes seemed off, a hardness that hadn't been there before. "Just getting used to the new power set. Which, by the way, is pretty sweet." "This isn't a game, Ben," Gwen said. "We need to figure out what happened and how to reverse it." Ben rolled his eyes. "Reverse it? Why would we want to do that? I've got the Omnitrix and Kevin's powers now. We're basically twice as effective." "Except I've got nothing," Kevin snapped. "You think I'm just cool with being powerless?" Ben's expression softened slightly. "Sorry, that came out wrong. Of course we'll fix this. But while we're figuring it out, might as well make the most of it, right?" Kevin just stared at him, then turned away. "Let's get that device back to Plumber HQ. Maybe Grandpa Max can figure out what it is." As they approached the device, it suddenly powered down completely, the crystals going dark. "That can't be good," Gwen muttered, creating a mana container around it. "Let's get out of here before more knights show up." None of them noticed the small drone watching from the shadows, its camera lens zooming in on Ben as they left. On the other end of the transmission, a figure with six-fingered hands adjusted something on a control panel. "Subject integration proceeding as expected," a smooth voice murmured. "Now we wait." Kevin's garage had become their unofficial headquarters over the past year, filled with alien tech, car parts, and the occasional pizza box. Now it felt like a reminder of everything he'd lost. He picked up a piece of engine block, staring at it, trying desperately to feel the familiar connection that would let him absorb its properties. Nothing. "Try again," Gwen encouraged, sitting beside him on the workbench. "Maybe it's like a muscle. You just need to strengthen it again." Kevin threw the metal piece across the room in frustration. "It's gone, Gwen. I can feel it. That machine didn't just suppress my powers, it extracted them." Ben was experimenting nearby, touching different materials and watching his skin transform. He'd gone from steel to rubber to concrete in the past few minutes, clearly enjoying himself. "This is actually way more versatile than I realized," Ben said, his arm now converted into the same green material as Kevin's tool cabinet. "No wonder you were such a tough opponent back in the day." Kevin glared. "Glad you're having fun with my life's powers." "Hey, I didn't ask for this either," Ben retorted, though he didn't stop experimenting. "Besides, don't act like you're completely helpless without powers. You've got your tech knowledge, fighting skills, easy for you to say when you've still got the Omnitrix and my abilities," Kevin snapped. Gwen stepped between them. "Fighting isn't helping. We need to focus on that device. I've got some books on cerebrocrustation technology that might help identify it." The device sat on Kevin's workbench, still dormant despite their attempts to reactivate it. Grandpa Max had examined it at Plumber HQ but couldn't determine its exact purpose without risking further activation. Ben's phone rang. "It's Grandpa," he said, answering. "Yeah. Uh-huh. Where?" "On it." He hung up. "Break-in at the particle physics lab downtown. Sounds like Vulcanus and his minions." "I'm driving," Kevin said automatically, grabbing his car keys. Ben raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're up for this without your powers?" The look Kevin gave him could have melted steel. "I was fighting aliens before I had powers, Tennyson. I'll manage." The drive to the lab was tense. Kevin gripped the steering wheel too tightly, Gwen kept glancing worriedly between him and Ben kept absently touching different parts of the car's interior, transforming his fingers into various materials. "Could you stop that?" Kevin finally snapped. "It's like watching someone else wear your clothes." Ben pulled his hand back from the leather seat he'd been touching. "Sorry. It's just, different. I'm used to full transformations with the Omnitrix. This partial stuff is new." "Yeah, well, welcome to my life for the past 10 years, Kevin muttered. They arrived at the lab to find Vulcanus's pickaxe-wielding minions loading equipment into a truck. The squat aliens scattered as Kevin's car screeched to a halt in the parking lot. "I'll handle Vulcanus," Ben said, already reaching for the Omnitrix. "You guys take the minions." "Ben, wait," Gwen started, but he'd already activated the watch. Green light flashed, but instead of an alien transformation, Ben's body began to glow again with absorbed energy. "Not what I was going for," Ben frowned, looking at his hands. "I wanted Swampfire." "The Omnitrix must still be affected by whatever that device did," Gwen theorized. "It seems to be prioritizing Kevin's absorbed powers instead of alien transformations." Kevin drew a Plumber issue blaster from his jacket. "Guess we're doing this old school." Vulcanus emerged from the lab, carrying what looked like a large particle accelerator component. His massive armored body clanked as he spotted them. "The Tennyson team. Right on schedule," he grinned, revealing metal teeth. "Though you're too late. This tech is worth a fortune on the black market." Ben stepped forward, energy crackling around his fists. "Drop it, Vulcanus. Whatever you're stealing stays here." Vulcanus paused, studying Ben. "Something's different about you, Tennyson." "No matter, my minions will keep your friends busy while I deal with you." As if on cue, dozens more pickaxe minions poured from the lab, surrounding Gwen and Kevin. "Ben, be careful," Gwen called, erecting mana shields as the minions attacked. "Remember, energy absorption isn't the same as your alien forms." Ben wasn't listening. He charged straight at Vulcanus, who dropped the tech and swung a massive armored fist. Ben ducked under it and grabbed Vulcanus's arm, his body instantly absorbing and transforming to match Vulcanus's armor material. "What the?" Vulcanus stared in shock as Ben's skin took on the same properties as his armor. "New trick," Ben grinned, his voice deeper, more aggressive. "Like it?" He landed a powerful punch to Vulcanus's midsection, denting the armor. Vulcanus stumbled back, genuinely surprised. "That's not your usual style, Tennyson," he growled, activating weapon systems in his armor. Twin lasers fired from his shoulders. Instead of dodging, Ben reached out and absorbed the energy directly, just as he'd done with the Forever Knights. The power surge made him gasp, it felt incredible, like pure adrenaline pumping through his veins. "More," Ben whispered, his eyes glowing briefly. "Give me more." Vulcanus took a step back. "Something's wrong with you, kid." Ben launched forward, faster than before, his hands crackling with the absorbed energy plus the power of Vulcanus's armor material. He slammed both fists into Vulcanus's chest plate, channeling the energy through the impact. The armor cracked, and Vulcanus flew backward through the lab wall. Meanwhile, Kevin was struggling. Without his powers, he had to rely solely on his blaster and combat skills against the swarm of minions. He ducked a pickaxe swing, blasted 2 minions away, then rolled under another attack, but there were too many. A pickaxe caught him across the back, tearing his jacket and leaving a shallow cut. "Kevin!" Gwen cried out, blasting away the minions surrounding him with mana bolts. "Are you okay?" "Fine," he grimaced, getting back to his feet. "Just not used to being this vulnerable." Inside the lab, Ben stood over Vulcanus, whose armor was now severely damaged, exposing the small alien inside the suit's control center. Energy still crackled around Ben's fists as he prepared another strike. "Yield," Ben demanded, his voice almost unrecognizable. "I yield. I yield." Vulcanus squeaked, his tiny arms raised in surrender. Ben didn't lower his fists. The power coursing through him felt too good, demanded release. He could feel Vulcanus's fear, and some dark part of him enjoyed it. "Ben!" Kevin's voice cut through his thoughts. He turned to see Kevin and Gwen standing in the hole in the wall, staring at him with concern. "He's done. Stand down." Ben blinked, looking at his energy-charged fists as if seeing them for the first time. Slowly, the energy dissipated, and he stepped back from Vulcanus. "Right. Yeah." He shook his head, trying to clear it. "Call the plumbers to pick him up." Outside, as they waited for the plumber containment team, Kevin pulled Ben aside. "What happened in there?" he asked quietly. "You looked like you were about to blast Vulcanus into next week, even after he surrendered." Ben rubbed his neck uncomfortably. "I don't know. The energy feels different. Powerful. Kind of addictive." Kevin's expression darkened. "That's exactly what I was afraid of. Your body isn't used to handling direct energy absorption. It can mess with your head." "I'm fine," Ben insisted, though his hands still trembled slightly. "Just need to get used to it." Kevin grabbed his shoulder. "Listen to me, Tennyson. I've been where you are. That rush you feel? It gets worse. More demanding. You start craving it, doing anything to feel it again." Ben shrugged off Kevin's hand. "I'm not you, Kevin. I can handle it." "That's exactly what I thought too." Their argument was interrupted by the arrival of plumber vehicles. Grandpa Max emerged from the lead transport, immediately assessing the situation. "Good work, kids," he said, though his experienced eyes noted the tension between Ben and Kevin. "Vulcanus has been on our most wanted list for months." "It was mostly Ben," Gwen said, watching her cousin with worried eyes. "He's adapting to the new power set." Max raised an eyebrow. "New power set?" They hadn't had time to brief him on what happened at the hybrid outpost. As they explained, Max's expression grew increasingly concerned. "We need to get you both back to headquarters for a full scan," he said when they finished. "Power transfers like this don't just happen randomly. Either that device was designed specifically for this purpose, or someone designed it for this purpose," Kevin finished grimly. Back at Plumber HQ, medical scans confirmed what they already suspected. Kevin's absorption abilities had been completely transferred to Ben, somehow integrating with the Omnitrix's systems. "The energy signatures are unmistakable," Blukik said, studying the readings. "It's like Kevin's power matrix was copied and pasted into Ben's DNA. Can you reverse it?" Kevin asked, trying not to sound as desperate as he felt. Dryba adjusted the scanner. "Possibly. But we'd need that device fully operational again. And even then, the process might not be reversible." Ben sat on the edge of the medical bed, unusually quiet. The rush from the battle had faded, leaving him feeling hollow, almost shaky. He found himself thinking about the energy blast from Vulcanus's weapons, how good it had felt to absorb it. Maybe if they encountered something with even more power. "Ben." Grandpa Max's voice broke through his thoughts. "Are you listening?" "Sorry, what?" Max studied his grandson with concern. I said we're putting a temporary hold on field missions until we better understand what's happening to you. What? Why? Ben stood up, instantly defensive. I just took down Vulcanus more efficiently than ever before. You also nearly blasted him after he surrendered, Gwen pointed out quietly. I had it under control. Kevin snorted. Yeah, that's why your eyes were glowing and you were talking like a supervillain. That's an exaggeration, Ben snapped, though a part of him wondered if it was. The memory was already becoming hazy, overshadowed by the remembered rush of power. Max placed a calming hand on Ben's shoulder. This isn't a punishment, Ben. We just need to understand what we're dealing with. Energy absorption abilities can be tricky, they affected Kevin's mind for years. I'm not Kevin, Ben repeated stubbornly. I've handled the Omnitrix for years. I think I can manage this. It's different, Kevin insisted. The Omnitrix transforms you into aliens with their own natural abilities. This is raw power absorption, it changes how you think, what you want. Ben was about to argue further when alarms blared throughout the base. A plumber tech rushed into the medical bay. Massive energy spike detected at the downtown power plant, she reported. Readings suggest tech theft in progress. I'm on it, Ben said immediately, already moving toward the exit. Max stepped in front of him. Ben, we just talked about this. You're on standby until, people could be in danger, Ben interrupted. And with Kevin powerless, you need me more than ever. He glanced at Kevin, immediately regretting his words when he saw his friend's face harden. I didn't mean, go, Kevin said flatly. Do what you do best, hero. Ben hesitated, then nodded to Gwen. Coming. She looked between Ben, Kevin, and her grandfather, clearly torn. I'll keep an eye on him, she told Max. I'm coming too, Kevin insisted. Powerless or not. Max knew there was no stopping all three of them. Fine, but this is reconnaissance only. Assess the situation and call for backup before engaging. That's an order. Ben gave a mock salute. Scout only. Got it. As they left, Max turned to Blukik and Dryba. Keep working on that device. I've got a bad feeling about all this. The Bellwood power plant was Bellwood's primary electricity source, a sprawling complex of generators, transformers, and power lines. As Kevin's car approached, they could see the problem immediately. The entire facility was surrounded by a strange, purple energy field. That's not normal, Gwen stated, her hands already glowing with mana as she tried to sense what they were dealing with. Ben leaned forward from the back seat, eyes fixed on the pulsing energy field. Something about it called to him, made his skin tingle with anticipation. I recognize that energy signature, Kevin said suddenly. It's similar to what that device was putting out. They parked a safe distance away and approached on foot. The energy field was about 20 feet high, encircling the entire facility. Can you teleport us inside? Ben asked Gwen. She shook her head. The field is interfering with my mana. I can't get a clear path through. Then we do this the old-fashioned way, Ben said, activating the Omnitrix. Please give me something useful this time. He slammed down the dial, and green light engulfed him. When it faded, Ben stood there in human form, but his skin had taken on a crystalline appearance similar to Diamond Head. Still not a full transformation, he muttered, examining his crystalline arms. But this could work. Before Gwen or Kevin could stop him, Ben ran toward the energy field and leaped through it. His crystalline form absorbed some of the energy on contact, allowing him to pass through without harm. Ben! Gwen called after him. Wait for us. Inside the field, Ben found himself in the main generator area. Workers were evacuating, guided by plumber agents who had already responded to the scene. In the center, standing atop the largest generator, was a tall, thin alien with 6 arms and purple, circuit-like patterns running across its pale skin. Who's that? Ben wondered aloud, approaching cautiously. The alien turned, revealing 4 eyes set in a face that looked almost skeletal. It studied Ben with obvious interest. "Benjamin Tennyson," it said, voice melodic yet mechanical. "Right on schedule." Ben froze. "You know me?" "Of course. You're the primary subject of my current experiment." The alien gestured to the generator beneath its feet. "And you're just in time for phase 2. Who are you?" Ben demanded, his crystalline hands forming into sharp points. The alien gave a slight bow. "I am known as the Collector. I study unique power manifestations throughout the galaxy. You might say I collect them." Outside the field, Kevin and Gwen were searching for a way in. "This energy is similar to what hit us at the outpost," Kevin said, examining the barrier without touching it. "Whoever set this up might be the same person who created that device." Gwen's eyes glowed as she scanned the perimeter. "There. The field is weaker at the north side, near those transformers." They circled around, finding a spot where the energy fluctuated. Kevin pulled out a small device from his pocket. "What's that?" Gwen asked. "Phase disruptor. Been working on it for situations like this." He adjusted some settings. "Should create a temporary opening. Ready?" Gwen nodded, mana glowing around her hands. Inside, Ben was confronting the Collector, who seemed completely unconcerned by Ben's aggressive stance. "You're the one who created that device, aren't you?" Ben accused. "The one that transferred Kevin's powers to me." "A simplified explanation, but essentially correct," the Collector replied, its 6 hands manipulating some kind of control panel on the generator. "I needed to see how osmosis absorption abilities would integrate with Omnitrix functionality. The results have been fascinating." "Change me back," Ben demanded, stepping closer. "And give Kevin his powers back." The Collector tilted its head. "Are you certain that's what you want? I've been monitoring you, Benjamin. You enjoy the rush of absorption. The power. The control." Ben hesitated, because part of him knew it was true. "That's not the point. These aren't my powers to keep." "Perhaps. Perhaps not." The Collector pressed a final sequence on the control panel, and the generator beneath its feet began to hum loudly. "But before any decisions are made, I need to see your full potential. This power plant contains enough energy to fully charge my collection matrix, and to push your new abilities to their limits." The generator surged, electricity arcing across its surface toward the Collector, who absorbed it through its palms. The alien's body glowed brighter with each passing second. "Stop!" Ben shouted, running toward the generator. "I think not," the Collector replied calmly. With a gesture, it redirected a massive energy surge straight at Ben. Instinctively, Ben raised his crystalline arms to block, but instead of deflecting the energy, his body began to absorb it. The rush hit him immediately, stronger than anything he'd felt before. His crystalline form began to glow from within, pulsing with absorbed power. "Yes." The Collector observed with scientific detachment. "Your absorption rate is exceptional, far better than I anticipated. The Omnitrix must be enhancing the osmosis ability." Ben could barely hear over the roar of energy flowing into him. It felt incredible, like he could tear down mountains, like nothing could possibly stand in his way. His vision blurred, then sharpened to crystal clarity. He could see energy flows everywhere, could feel the power of the entire plant at his fingertips. "More," he whispered, echoing his earlier words with Vulcanus, but this time with much greater intensity. He reached out toward the generator, pulling energy directly from it. The Collector's 4 eyes widened in surprise. "Fascinating. You're bypassing my controls. Your adaptation rate exceeds all projections." At that moment, Gwen and Kevin burst through a temporary opening in the energy field, just in time to see Ben absorbing massive amounts of power directly from the generator. "Ben!" Gwen cried out, horrified. Stop. You'll overload. Kevin recognized what was happening immediately. He can't stop, Gwen. The energy high is too strong. I've been there. He turned to her, face grim. If we don't break the connection, he'll drain this place dry and possibly explode from overload. Who's that? Gwen pointed at the collector, who was now recording data on a holographic display. Don't know, don't care, Kevin replied, already moving toward Ben. He's the least of our problems right now. Ben's body was now pulsing with energy, his crystalline form barely containing the power he'd absorbed. His eyes glowed with the same energy, and when he spoke, his voice echoed strangely. Kevin. Gwen. You need to feel this. It's everything. Kevin approached carefully. I know exactly what it feels like, Tennyson. And I know what comes next. You need to let it go before you hurt someone, or yourself. Ben laughed, the sound distorted. Let it go. Why would I ever want to do that? I've never felt more powerful. To demonstrate, he raised a hand toward a nearby transformer and casually blasted it with excess energy, melting it instantly. Ben, this isn't you. Gwen pleaded. The energy is affecting your mind, just like Kevin warned. Kevin doesn't understand, Ben replied, his gaze fixing on his friend with an unsettling intensity. He never appreciated what he had. The potential. But I see it clearly now. The collector observed the interaction with clinical interest. The psychological effects are progressing faster than anticipated. Most interesting. Kevin's face hardened. He knew reasoning wouldn't work, not while Ben was riding the energy high. He'd been exactly where Ben was now, drunk on power, convinced of his own invincibility. Gwen, he said quietly. We need to shock him out of it. Something emotionally significant enough to break through. Gwen nodded, understanding. She stepped forward, hands raised non-threateningly. Ben, remember when we were kids? When you first found the Omnitrix? Ben's glowing eyes fixed on her, his expression softening slightly. You were scared at first, she continued. Overwhelmed. But Grandpa Max helped you understand the responsibility that came with that power. This is different, Ben insisted, though his voice wavered slightly. Is it? Kevin asked, stepping up beside Gwen. Because from where I'm standing, you look exactly like I did when I was 11 years old, power-mad and heading for disaster. Ben's energy glow fluctuated. I'm not. I'm not like that. I'm a hero. Then act like one, Kevin challenged. A real hero knows when to step back from power, not embrace it at any cost. The words hit Ben hard, cutting through the energy-induced haze. He looked down at his glowing hands, then at the partially melted transformer he'd destroyed. Something in his expression changed, horror creeping in at the edges. What am I doing? He whispered. The collector, seeing its subject's focus wavering, frowned. This test is not yet complete. It manipulated controls on its wrist device, and suddenly the generator output increased tenfold, flooding Ben with even more energy. Ben screamed as the power surged through him again, threatening to overwhelm his momentary clarity. The entire power plant began to shake, lights flickering throughout Bellwood as the city's power grid fluctuated dangerously. Kevin turned to Gwen. We need to stop that alien. It's pumping Ben full of more energy. Gwen nodded, her eyes glowing pink. On it. She launched into the air on a mana platform, firing energy bolts at the collector. The alien casually raised a shield from its wrist device, deflecting her attacks. Your interference is unwelcome but not unanticipated, the collector stated calmly. Subject Kevin Levin and Subject Gwendolyn Tennyson, your participation has been noted but is no longer required. With a gesture, it sent a pulse of energy that knocked Gwen back. Kevin, lacking his usual absorption abilities, was left to dodge as similar energy blasts targeted him. Powerless as you are, you still attempt to intervene, the collector observed. Admirable, if futile. Kevin ducked behind a control panel, his mind racing. He needed a way to reach Ben, to break through the energy addiction before it was too late. Drawing on his own experiences, he remembered what had finally gotten through to him, not force, not even reason, but connection. Someone believing in him when he couldn't believe in himself. While Gwen kept the collector distracted, Kevin circled around toward Ben, who was now floating several feet off the ground, energy cascading from his body in waves that warped the air around him. Ben! Kevin shouted over the roar of power. I know you can hear me in there. Ben's head turned slowly, his glowing eyes barely recognizable. Kevin, the power, can't control it. Yes, you can, Kevin insisted, inching closer despite the danger. You're Ben Tennyson. The guy who mastered the Omnitrix. The hero who's saved the universe more times than I can count. This is just one more challenge. Ben's expression flickered between rapture and anguish. It feels so good, but it's wrong. I can feel it changing me. I know exactly how it feels, Kevin said, now close enough to reach out, though touching Ben in this state would be suicidal. But you're stronger than the power, Ben. You've always been stronger than your powers. That's what makes you a hero. Overhead, Gwen was locked in battle with the collector, whose multiple arms allowed it to maintain its experiment controls while defending itself. She managed to disrupt one of its devices with a well-placed mana blast. Your subject is slipping away, she taunted, hoping to distract it further. The collector frowned. A temporary setback. The psychological conditioning process is not yet complete. Below, Ben was fighting an internal battle. Kevin's words had penetrated the energy haze, reminding him of who he truly was. With tremendous effort, he raised his hands to the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Need to shut it down, he gasped. Can't hold much longer. Kevin nodded encouragingly. That's it, Tennyson. You've got this. Ben slammed his palm against the Omnitrix symbol, triggering a reset. Green light flashed, and the energy he'd absorbed began to discharge in a controlled manner, channeled through the Omnitrix's safety protocols. The crystalline coating on his skin receded, leaving him human once more. As the energy dissipated, Ben collapsed to his knees, gasping. Kevin rushed forward to catch him before he fell completely. I got you, man, Kevin said, supporting his friend's weight. You did it. The collector, seeing its experiment interrupted, made a noise of disappointment. Subject demonstrates unexpected willpower. Parameters must be adjusted for future testing. Gwen flew down to join Ben and Kevin. Are you okay? Ben nodded weakly. I think so. But that was intense. He looked up at Kevin, genuine remorse in his eyes. You were right. That power, it gets in your head. Makes you want things, think things. Tell me about it, Kevin replied with a grim smile. Welcome to my world. The collector began to teleport away. This session has concluded, but the experiment continues. We will meet again, Benjamin Tennyson. Wait. Ben tried to stand, but was too weak. The alien vanished in a flash of purple light. As the energy field around the power plant dissipated, plumber teams rushed in, led by Grandpa Max. What happened here? Max demanded, taking in the damaged equipment and his exhausted grandson. We met the guy responsible for the power transfer, Kevin explained. Calls himself the collector. Apparently, this whole thing was some kind of experiment. He was testing how Kevin's powers would work with the Omnitrix, Gwen added. Using Ben as his guinea pig. Max's expression darkened. Did you get anything we can use to track him? Nothing, Kevin said. But he said the experiment continues, so he's not done with us. Max helped Ben to his feet. How are you feeling? Ben shook his head, still dazed. Like I just went 10 rounds with Vilgax. But. He hesitated, looking at Kevin. I understand now. What it's like. The addiction. Kevin nodded in acknowledgement. And that was just a taste. Imagine living with that every day for years. I don't know how you did it, Ben admitted. How you came back from that. A small smile touched Kevin's lips. I had help. Good friends who didn't give up on me. His gaze shifted briefly to Gwen. As they headed back to Plumber HQ, Ben remained unusually quiet, processing what he'd experienced. The rush of absorbed energy had been like nothing he'd ever felt, even after years of using the Omnitrix. It scared him how quickly it had changed him, how easily it had tapped into something dark inside him. We'll figure this out, Gwen assured him, sensing his thoughts. Get your powers back to normal, get Kevin's powers back to him. Ben nodded, but a small, disturbing part of him wondered if he really wanted to give up this new ability completely. The power was dangerous, addictive, but also exhilarating in a way none of his alien forms had ever been. And somewhere out in the galaxy, the Collector was already planning the next phase of its experiment. Chapter 2, Power Corrupts. 3 days after the power plant incident, Ben sat alone on the roof of his house, flipping a quarter between his fingers. Touch, absorb, release. The coin shifted between copper, silver, and normal with each flick of his wrist. He'd been practicing small absorptions, telling himself it was just to understand the powers better. Just to maintain control. He wasn't addicted. Definitely not. The quarter went flying when his phone buzzed. Julie's name flashed on the screen. Hey, he answered, trying to sound normal. What's up? Ben. Are we still on for the movie tonight? I've been waiting at the theater for 20 minutes. Ben winced. He'd completely forgotten. Julie, I'm so sorry. I got caught up in, something came up with plumber stuff. The lie tasted sour. There was no mission. He'd just been sitting here for hours, practicing absorptions, chasing that little buzz each one gave him. This is the third time this week, Julie said, disappointment clear in her voice. Is everything okay with you? Yeah. Totally fine, Ben said too quickly. Just busy saving the world, you know how it is. I do know how it is, Julie replied quietly. And this feels different. Ben's fingers twitched toward the metal railing of the roof. Just one quick touch would give him that little rush. No. Focus. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Tomorrow night. Dinner and whatever movie you want. Julie sighed. Okay. Just, take care of yourself, Ben. After hanging up, Ben stared at his hand. The fingertips were slightly metallic, he'd unconsciously started absorbing the phone case while talking. He hadn't even noticed. It's fine, he muttered to himself. I've got this under control. Kevin's garage had never felt so empty. Tools that once jumped into his hands now lay cold and useless. He couldn't feel them anymore, not in the way that mattered. He hurled a wrench across the room. That's the third tool you've thrown today, Gwen observed from the doorway. Kevin didn't turn around. Counting, are we? Just observing. She stepped inside, picking up the wrench. Any word from Ben? Radio silence. Again. Kevin finally turned, dark circles under his eyes. He's not answering calls from me or Max. Gwen set the wrench down carefully. He missed another date with Julie last night. She called me worried. He's using, Kevin said flatly. Using? He's not on drugs, Kevin. Energy absorption is the drug. Kevin ran a hand through his unkempt hair. Trust me, I recognize the signs. The isolation, the excuses, the practice sessions he thinks nobody notices. Gwen crossed her arms, concerned but defensive. He's not you, Kevin. Maybe he's just what? Kevin snapped. Just enjoying his shiny new powers that he stole from me. The moment the words left his mouth, Kevin regretted them. Gwen's face fell. That's not fair, she said quietly. Ben didn't choose this. Kevin deflated, leaning heavily against his workbench. I know. I know he didn't. It's just. He gestured helplessly at himself. What am I without my powers, Gwen? Just some ex-con with a wrench? Gwen stepped closer, taking his hands in hers. You're Kevin Ethan Levin. The same brilliant, stubborn, brave person you've always been. He looked down at their joined hands. Am I? Because it doesn't feel that way. Every time I reach for something, I expect to feel it. Not just touch it, feel it. Metal, stone, whatever. It was part of who I am, and now. We'll get your powers back, Gwen promised. Blukik and Dryba are still working on that device. Kevin snorted. Those two couldn't fix a toaster. Then we'll find the collector ourselves, Gwen insisted. But first, we need to help Ben. Kevin nodded slowly, his concern for his friend temporarily outweighing his own problems. He's heading down a dark road, Gwen. Darker than he realizes. Then we'll be his light, she said with determination. Like you both have been for me. The garage door slid open before Kevin could respond. Ben strolled in, smoothie in hand, looking surprisingly normal, except for the slight tremor in his fingers that both Gwen and Kevin immediately noticed. Hey guys, Ben greeted them casually. What's with the serious faces? Someone die or something? Kevin and Gwen exchanged glances. We've been trying to reach you for days, Gwen said. Where have you been? Ben shrugged, taking a long sip of smoothie. Around. Had some stuff to take care of. Stuff like practicing absorptions? Kevin asked bluntly. Ben's easy smile faltered for just a second. Just getting a handle on these new abilities. Seems smart, right? Better than accidentally absorbing something in the middle of a fight. Sure, Kevin agreed, his tone carefully neutral. What have you been absorbing, exactly? Ben's eyes narrowed slightly. What is this, an intervention? Because I'm fine. Nobody said you weren't, Gwen said soothingly. We're just concerned. After what happened at the power plant, I lost control once, Ben interrupted. Once. It won't happen again because I'm practicing. Kevin stepped forward. Practicing absorbing what, Tennyson? Energy? Because that's the slippery slope. Ben's jaw tightened. I'm being careful. That's what I used to tell myself too. The tension in the garage thickened. Ben's fingers tightened around his smoothie cup until the lid popped off, splashing purple liquid onto the floor. I'm not you, Ben said, each word precise and sharp. I've had the Omnitrix for years. I know how to handle power. Different kind of power, Kevin insisted. The Omnitrix transforms you. Absorption changes you. Ben rolled his eyes. Here we go again. Look, I appreciate the concern, but I'm good. Better than good, actually. He fidgeted with the Omnitrix. I've been experimenting, and these absorption powers actually work really well with the Omnitrix. I can absorb materials and then transform, carrying those properties into the transformation. Kevin's eyes widened. You've been what? Innovating, Ben said with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Check this out. He touched the concrete floor, his hand turning gray, then activated the Omnitrix. In a flash of green light, 4 arms appeared, but instead of the usual red skin, this 4 arms was made entirely of concrete. Concrete 4 arms, Ben announced in the deeper voice of the Tetramand. Twice as tough as regular 4 arms. Pretty cool, right? Gwen stepped back, alarmed. Ben, have you shown this to Grandpa Max? The Omnitrix wasn't designed to. Grandpa doesn't need to know about every little upgrade, Ben dismissed, slapping the Omnitrix symbol to return to human form. His skin remained concrete-like for several seconds after the transformation before finally fading to normal. Besides, it works great. I took down Rojo and her gang last night in like 30 seconds flat. You went on a mission without telling us? Gwen asked, hurt evident in her voice. It wasn't a big deal, Ben shrugged. Just some tech robbery downtown. Didn't want to bother you guys. Kevin and Gwen exchanged worried glances. This wasn't like Ben at all. He loved having backup, loved showing off for his team. Ben, Kevin said carefully, when was the last time you used a regular alien transformation without absorption? Ben blinked, caught off guard by the question. I dunno. A few days ago, maybe. Try it now, Kevin challenged. What? Why? Just humor me. Ben rolled his eyes but activated the Omnitrix anyway. He cycled through alien forms before selecting one and slamming down the dial. Green light flashed, but when it faded, Ben remained human, his skin now metallic like chromastone. That's weird, Ben frowned, looking at his transformed hands. I selected Jetray. You can't access your normal transformations anymore, can you? Kevin pressed. Ben's confidence wavered. It's just temporary. The Omnitrix is probably still adjusting to the new power set. Or, Kevin suggested grimly, the absorption abilities are overriding the Omnitrix's functions because you've been using them too much. That's ridiculous, Ben scoffed, though uncertainty flickered across his face. He slapped the Omnitrix symbol, returning to normal. The Omnitrix is fine. I'm fine. Everything is under control. Before either Gwen or Kevin could respond, their plumber badges activated simultaneously. Max's voice came through, emergency at Bellwood Dam. Unknown tech is draining the reservoir and threatening structural integrity. All available plumbers respond immediately. Ben was already heading for the door. See. Duty calls. We'll finish this little therapy session later. Kevin grabbed his plumber weapons cache. This conversation isn't over, Tennyson. Whatever you say, powerless wonder, Ben muttered, just loud enough for Kevin to hear. Kevin froze, the words hitting like a physical blow. Gwen looked between them, alarmed by Ben's callousness. Ben, she admonished. That was completely uncalled for. For a moment, Ben looked ashamed, guilt flashing across his face. Then his expression hardened again. We don't have time for this. The dam's in trouble. He stormed out, leaving Kevin standing rigidly in place. He didn't mean that, Gwen said softly. Kevin's face was unreadable. Yeah, he did. And the worst part? He's right. He grabbed his keys. Let's go save the dam. Bellwood Dam was in chaos when they arrived. Water sprayed from multiple breaches in the concrete structure, and a strange device had been attached to the central spillway, pulsing with familiar purple energy. The collector, Gwen realized, scanning the area with glowing eyes. Same energy signature. Ben was already out of the car before it fully stopped, running toward the dam with eager strides. I've got this. Ben, wait. Gwen called. We need a plan. But Ben was already gone, racing up the access road toward the top of the dam. Kevin gunned the engine, trying to catch up. He's getting worse, Kevin said grimly. That device is draining energy from the dam's hydroelectric generators. If Ben absorbs that much power again. We need to stop him before he reaches it, Gwen agreed. At the dam's crest, plumber agents were evacuating civilians and trying to contain the water leakage. Ben pushed past them, eyes locked on the pulsing device attached to the central generator housing. It looked similar to what they'd found at the hybrid outpost, but larger, more complex. Ben Tennyson. A familiar melodic voice called out. The collector stood beside the device, 6 arms working various controls. Right on schedule. You. Ben shouted, approaching without hesitation. This ends now. The collector tilted its head. Does it? I think not. My experiment is proceeding exactly as anticipated. Experiments over, Ben declared, activating the Omnitrix. Green light flashed, and he emerged as Humongousaur, except his skin was composed of shifting energy patterns rather than the usual dinosaur hide. Energy Humongousaur. The collector observed with clinical interest. Fascinating adaptation. The Omnitrix is integrating with the Osmosion abilities more thoroughly than projected. Ben charged forward, his massive energy-infused form shaking the dam with each step. The collector simply raised a device in one of its 6 hands, and the dam's generators surged, pouring power into the central mechanism. A beam of concentrated energy shot toward Ben. Instead of dodging, Ben spread his arms wide, absorbing the energy directly. His body glowed brighter, growing larger as Humongousaur's natural size-increasing abilities combined with the energy intake. Yes. Ben roared, his voice distorted by power. More. The collector adjusted its controls. Subject's absorption capacity exceeds previous measurements. Increasing energy output by 200%. Kevin's car screeched to a halt at the dam's entrance. He and Gwen leaped out, running toward the confrontation. Ben, stop. Gwen shouted, raising mana shields to deflect water spraying from new cracks in the dam. You're damaging the structure. Ben either couldn't hear or chose to ignore her. His energy-composed form had now grown to nearly 60 feet tall, towering over the dam itself. Each step cracked the concrete beneath him, widening the existing fractures. Incredible, the collector murmured, recording data on a holographic display. The subject has achieved perfect integration of Vaxosaurian growth capabilities with Osmosion energy absorption. A truly remarkable symbiosis. Kevin assessed the situation rapidly. The dam's not going to hold. Those cracks are spreading too fast. What do we do? Gwen asked, desperately trying to contain the water leakage with mana barriers. We need to shut down that device first, Kevin said. Then deal with Ben. While Gwen maintained her barriers, Kevin circled around, using the chaos as cover to approach the collector from behind. Without his absorption abilities, he'd need to rely on stealth and his plumber weapons. Meanwhile, Ben was lost in the euphoria of power absorption. The energy flowing into him was unlike anything he'd felt before, pure, raw, overwhelming. Each new surge expanded his consciousness, made him feel more connected to the universe itself. Why had Kevin ever complained about this? It was glorious. Ben. Gwen's voice barely penetrated his awareness. The dam is breaking. You need to stop. Part of Ben, a small, increasingly distant part, recognized the danger. But the energy was too intoxicating to relinquish. Just a little more, just a little longer. The collector suddenly spun around, detecting Kevin's approach. The powerless Osmosion. How interesting that you continue to interfere despite your diminished state. Kevin raised his blaster. I'm more than my powers, freak. An hypothesis worth testing, the collector replied calmly. 2 of its hands adjusted controls while the other 4 produced weapons that resembled skeletal fingers. Perhaps you'll make an interesting secondary subject. Kevin dodged the first energy blast, firing his own weapon as he rolled behind a generator housing. The shot glanced off the collector's personal shield. Conventional weapons are ineffective against my defenses, the collector stated. Without your absorption abilities, you present minimal threat. Maybe, Kevin grunted, ducking another blast. But I'm one hell of a distraction. The collector's 4 eyes widened slightly as it realized its error, too late. Gwen had used Kevin's diversion to position herself near the central device. Her hands glowed with intense mana as she unleashed a concentrated blast at its power coupling. The device sparked and screamed, the energy beam connecting to Ben suddenly fluctuating. The collector spun toward Gwen. You damaged the collection matrix, it hissed, genuine emotion breaking through its clinical demeanor for the first time. Centuries of research. Ben, abruptly cut off from the energy source, stumbled backward. His energy-composed Humongousaur form flickered, shrinking rapidly as the power dissipated. The sudden withdrawal hit him like a physical blow, sending him to his knees on the cracking dam surface. "No," he gasped, reaching toward the damaged device. "Not yet. Need more." The collector assessed the situation quickly. Primary experiment compromised. Initiating contingency protocol. It tapped a sequence on its wrist device, and the central mechanism began to pulse with new intensity, emitting a high-pitched whine. Kevin recognized the sound immediately. "It's going to overload. Everyone get back." Gwen threw up a mana shield around herself and nearby plumber agents as the device exploded, sending shrapnel and energy waves in all directions. The blast accelerated the dam's structural failure, massive cracks spreading across the entire face. "The dam's going," a plumber shouted. "Complete evacuation. Now." Ben, still dazed from energy withdrawal, looked up to see water beginning to spray through widening fissures. Clarity returned to him in a rush of adrenaline and guilt. What had he done? "Gwen," he called out, staggering to his feet. "We need to contain this." Gwen was already working at maximum capacity, her mana barrier straining to hold back the water pressure. "I can't hold it much longer. There's too much pressure." Ben twisted the Omnitrix dial frantically. "Come on, give me something useful." He slammed it down, praying for Humongousaur or 4 arms, something with strength to shore up the dam. Green light flashed, and when it faded, Ben found himself transformed into a crystalline form reminiscent of Diamondhead, but not quite. His body was composed of green energy-infused crystals, an adaptation of the alien form mixed with his absorbed energy. "Not exactly what I wanted, but it'll work," he muttered, rushing to the largest crack. He placed his hands against it, willing his crystalline structure to expand and seal the breach. It worked, the living crystal spread across the crack, hardening into a temporary patch. "Kevin!" Ben called out. "I need your help. Tell me where the worst weak points are." Despite everything, Kevin didn't hesitate. He might be furious with Ben, but lives were at stake. 3 major stress fractures," he shouted, pointing. There, and the main spillway." Ben moved from crack to crack, sealing each with crystalline patches while Gwen maintained her barriers at the most critical points. Kevin coordinated with plumber agents, ensuring civilians were clear of the danger zone. The collector watched the rescue efforts with academic interest. Fascinating. Even in power withdrawal, subject maintains tactical efficiency. Noted. Kevin spotted the alien observing from a higher vantage point. "You're not getting away this time." He grabbed a plumber jetpack from a nearby equipment cache and activated it, launching himself upward. The collector seemed almost amused by Kevin's determination. "Persistent, despite your limitations. An admirable but futile quality." It activated a teleportation device on its belt. "Oh no you don't." Kevin growled, pushing the jetpack to maximum thrust. He crashed into the collector just as the teleportation field engaged, both of them vanishing in a flash of purple light. "Kevin!" Gwen cried out, momentarily distracted from her barriers. Water began to spray through. "Focus, Gwen!" Ben shouted, rushing to reinforce her position with more crystal. "I've almost got this contained." With one final effort, Ben created a massive crystalline buttress across the dam's weakened central section. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would give repair crews time to implement proper fixes. The immediate crisis had passed. As the emergency response teams moved in, Ben collapsed to his knees, the crystal form receding as the Omnitrix timed out. He felt hollow, shaky, the familiar symptoms of energy withdrawal hitting him hard. Gwen ran to his side. "Ben! Are you okay?" "Kevin," Ben gasped, looking around frantically. "Where's Kevin?" Gwen's face was pale with worry. The collector teleported away. Kevin grabbed onto him at the last second. They're both gone. The implications hit Ben like a punch to the gut. Kevin, powerless Kevin, was now in the hands of the being who had orchestrated this entire nightmare. And it was partly his fault. "We need to find him," Ben said, trying to stand but failing. His body trembled with exhaustion and withdrawal. "Now. You're in no condition to do anything," Gwen said firmly. "And we have no way to track that teleport." Plumber medics approached to check on them. One scanned Ben with a medical device, frowning at the readings. "Massive energy depletion," the medic reported. "He needs immediate stabilization." Ben pushed the scanner away. "I'm fine. We need to focus on finding Kevin." "You're not fine," Gwen insisted. "Your body's in shock from absorbing and expending that much energy." Before Ben could argue further, Grandpa Max arrived, his face grim as he surveyed the scene. His eyes landed on Ben with a mixture of concern and disappointment that made Ben want to sink into the ground. "What happened here?" Max asked quietly. "The collector set a trap," Gwen explained. "Ben absorbed too much energy, damaged the dam. We contained it but—" Her voice broke. "Kevin's gone. The collector teleported away and Kevin went with him." Max's expression darkened further. "Intentionally?" "He was trying to stop the collector," Gwen defended. "He grabbed him just as the teleport activated." Max nodded, then turned to Ben. "And you? What were you thinking, absorbing energy from that device after what happened at the power plant?" Ben couldn't meet his grandfather's eyes. I don't know. I couldn't stop myself." "That's what I was afraid of," Max sighed. He gestured to the medics. "Get him to Plumber HQ Medical Bay. Full containment protocols." "What?" Ben's head snapped up. "Containment?" "Grandpa, I'm not, this isn't a request, Ben," Max said firmly. "You're exhibiting all the classic signs of energy addiction. Until we understand what's happening and can reverse it, you're a danger to yourself and others." "But Kevin, we'll find Kevin," Max assured him. "But you need help first." As the medics helped Ben to a transport vehicle, the reality of his situation finally hit him. He'd lost control. Endangered lives. And now Kevin was missing because he'd been too obsessed with power to focus on the real threat. The worst part? Even now, knowing the consequences, a part of him was already craving the next energy fix. Kevin regained consciousness in what appeared to be a laboratory. Sleek, alien technology surrounded him, pulsing with the same purple energy he'd come to associate with the collector. He was restrained on an examination table, energy cuffs binding his wrists and ankles. "Subject is conscious," the collector's voice noted clinically. The alien stepped into view, for eyes studying Kevin with scientific detachment. Remarkable resilience for a powerless human hybrid. "Where am I?" Kevin demanded, testing his restraints. They held firm. "My research vessel," the collector replied, manipulating controls on a nearby console. "Currently in orbit around your Earth. You present an unexpected variable in my experiment, Kevin Levin." "Happy to mess up your plans," Kevin spat. "What do you want with Ben?" The collector's head tilted slightly. "Merely to observe a unique power integration. The Omnitrix is the most sophisticated transformation technology in the galaxy. Osmosion absorption abilities are among the most adaptable energy manipulation powers known. Their combination presents unprecedented research potential." "So what, Ben's just your lab rat?" A crude but essentially accurate assessment. The collector moved closer, scanning Kevin with a handheld device. "As are you, though in a different capacity. The original Osmosion subject, now powerless. A control specimen." Kevin tensed. "I'm nobody's specimen." "Your objection is noted but irrelevant." The collector completed its scan, studying the results. "Fascinating. Your cellular structure retains osmosion absorption potential, despite the power transfer. The capability exists but remains dormant. This caught Kevin's attention. What does that mean? My powers could come back. Potentially, the collector confirmed. With proper stimulation. Or they could be permanently transferred to Benjamin Tennyson. The experiment will determine which outcome occurs. So reverse it, Kevin demanded. Give me back my powers before Ben loses himself completely. The collector's expression remained impassive. That would prematurely terminate the experiment. Benjamin Tennyson's psychological deterioration is a critical variable. The rate at which the osmosion energy addiction corrupts his hero complex provides valuable data on power/personality integration. Kevin strained against his restraints, fury building. You sick freak. You're watching him destroy himself for your research notes. Science requires observation without intervention, the collector stated simply. However, your presence offers new experimental possibilities. The alien moved to another console, activating a view screen. It showed Ben in the Plumber HQ medical bay, restrained to a bed, looking pale and agitated as medics monitored his condition. Your friend experiences the initial stages of severe energy withdrawal, the collector explained. His dependency has progressed remarkably quickly, likely accelerated by the Omnitrix's enhancement of the absorption capabilities. Kevin watched the screen with growing horror. He recognized the symptoms all too well, the tremors, the desperate eyes, the way Ben kept looking around the room for potential energy sources. He'd been there himself, many times. He won't survive this, Kevin said quietly. Not the Ben we know. The addiction will change him, turn him into something else. Precisely the transformation I am documenting, the collector confirmed. Though your insight as a previous subject is valuable. Perhaps a direct comparison would yield additional data. The alien adjusted something on the console, and the restraint table Kevin was bound to began to hum with energy. What are you doing? Kevin demanded, struggling harder. A controlled energy infusion, the collector explained. To determine whether your absorption capabilities can be reactivated. Before Kevin could protest further, purple energy began to flow into the table and through the restraints into his body. Pain lanced through him, familiar yet foreign, the sensation of energy trying to connect with dormant absorption abilities. Kevin screamed, his back arching against the restraints. It felt like his cells were being ripped apart and reconfigured, like his DNA was being rewritten on the fly. Memories flooded him, the first time he absorbed energy as a child, the madness that followed, the years lost to power-induced insanity. Interesting response, the collector noted, adjusting the energy flow. Cellular absorption capability responding to stimulation. Reactivation possible with increased power input. Through the haze of pain, Kevin realized what was happening. The collector was trying to jumpstart his powers, essentially creating a second osmosion absorber while Ben still had his abilities. The implications were terrifying. If he got his powers back this way, would they be the same? Or would he revert to the monster he'd once been? With a tremendous effort of will, Kevin focused through the pain, remembering techniques Quarrel had taught him in the Null Void. Control your mind, control your power. He couldn't stop what the collector was doing to him, but he could resist absorbing the energy being forced into his system. Subject exhibits unusual resistance, the collector observed with surprise. Consciously rejecting energy intake despite cellular receptivity. I'm not your lab rat, Kevin gasped between waves of pain. The collector increased the power. Resistance noted, but ultimately futile. Your osmosion nature cannot deny energy indefinitely. Kevin's vision began to blur as the pain intensified. He couldn't hold out much longer. As consciousness started to slip away, his last thought was of Ben, facing the same addiction he'd battled for years, but without the hard-earned experience to guide him through it. If Kevin couldn't save himself, maybe he could at least save his friend. At Plumber headquarters, Ben paced his medical containment room like a caged animal. His skin occasionally flickered with traces of whatever material he'd last absorbed, his control slipping as withdrawal symptoms intensified. Let me out, he demanded, slamming a fist against the transparent barrier. Kevin needs our help. Outside the containment field, Gwen and Max watched with concern. His condition is deteriorating faster than we anticipated, the plumber doctor reported. The energy readings are fluctuating wildly. It's like his cells are starving for absorption material. Can't you give him something? Gwen asked desperately. To help with the withdrawal. The doctor shook his head. This isn't a chemical addiction, it's energy-based. His cellular structure has been fundamentally altered by the osmosion abilities. Without a controlled source of material to absorb, his system is essentially going into shock. Inside the containment field, Ben dropped to his knees, trembling violently. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought against the overwhelming craving for energy. Please, he gasped, looking up at his grandfather. Just a little power. Anything. It hurts. Max's heart broke seeing his grandson in such pain, but he remained firm. I'm sorry, Ben. Cold turkey is the only way through this. Giving you energy to absorb would only prolong the addiction. You don't understand, Ben groaned, curling in on himself. It's not just wanting it. I need it. My cells need it. Gwen turned to the doctor. Is that true? Could this actually harm him physically? It's possible, the doctor admitted. Osmosion physiology isn't well documented. Kevin Levin was our primary reference case, and his system adapted to the absorption abilities over years. Ben's body has had days. Max considered this information grimly. What are our options? We could provide minimal controlled materials for absorption, enough to ease the withdrawal symptoms without feeding the addiction. Do it, Max decided. But keep the energy levels low. Just enough to stabilize him. As the doctor prepared a controlled energy source, Blukik and Dryba entered the medical bay, arguing as usual. The quantum resonance was clearly affected by the transfer matrix. Blukik insisted. No, no, no. It was the harmonic frequency that disrupted the power balance. Dryba countered. Max interrupted their bickering. Please tell me you have good news about that device. The two Galvans stopped arguing and exchanged glances. Well, yes and no, Dryba began. Mostly no, Blukik added unhelpfully. We've determined that the device was specifically calibrated to transfer osmosion abilities, Dryba explained. But we haven't figured out how to reverse the process, Blukik finished. Or where the collector took Kevin, Dryba added. Ben overheard this exchange and slammed his fist against the barrier again. So we've got nothing. Kevin's missing, I'm falling apart, and the best minds and the plumbers can't figure out a simple alien tech reverse engineering problem. Ben. Max reprimanded. That's enough. Ben's anger deflated as quickly as it had flared, replaced by desperation. I'm sorry. I can't think straight. Everything hurts. And Kevin's out there somewhere because of me. The doctor approached the containment field with a small, controlled energy emitter. This should help with the withdrawal symptoms. Just a small, regulated dose. As the energy emitter activated inside the containment field, Ben's body reacted immediately. He lunged for it, hands outstretched, absorbing the energy with desperate intensity. His whole form glowed briefly as the energy integrated with his system. The effect was immediate. Ben's trembling stopped, and his breathing steadied. He straightened up, color returning to his face. Better? Max asked cautiously. Ben nodded, still fixated on the energy emitter. It's not enough. But, it helps. That's all you get for now, Max said firmly. We need to wean you off this dependency, not feed it. Ben finally tore his gaze away from the emitter. I need to find Kevin. This is my fault. We're doing everything we can to track the collector's teleport signature, Max assured him. But you need to focus on getting better first. I'm fine now, Ben insisted, though the hungry way he kept glancing at the energy emitter suggested otherwise. Just let me help with the search. Before Max could respond, an alarm blared throughout the base. A plumber tech rushed into the medical bay. Sir. We've detected a spacecraft entering Earth's atmosphere. Energy signature matches the collector's teleportation technology. Ben was on his feet instantly. That's him. He's coming back. Or it's a trap, Max cautioned. Specifically designed to lure you out. I don't care, Ben said, his eyes hardening with determination. It's our only lead to finding Kevin. Max and Gwen exchanged concerned glances. You're not stable enough for field operations, Max said. If you absorb more energy, I won't, Ben promised, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. Please, Grandpa. I need to fix this. After a long moment of consideration, Max nodded to the doctor. Release the containment field. But, he added, turning to Ben with steel in his voice, you stay with your team at all times. No solo heroics. And at the first sign of energy addiction resurfacing, you're back in containment. Understood? Ben nodded eagerly. Completely understood. Team player all the way. As the containment field deactivated, Gwen approached her cousin. Are you sure you're up for this? I have to be, Ben said quietly. For Kevin. The determination in his voice was genuine, but so was the faint glow in his eyes when he glanced at power sources. Around the room, a hunger that was temporarily sated but far from extinguished. The collector's ship had landed in an abandoned quarry outside Bellwood, a massive, sleek vessel that resembled an elongated insect with multiple segmented sections. Plumber vehicles established a perimeter around it, weapons trained on the sealed entry hatch. Ben and Gwen arrived with Max, surveying the situation from a command post on the quarry rim. No movement since landing, a plumber officer reported. No response to communication attempts. It's too quiet, Max said suspiciously. This feels like a setup. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through alien forms. Only one way to find out. Ben, Max warned. Remember what we discussed. Team approach only. Ben nodded impatiently. I know. Gwen and I go in, you guys provide backup. But we need to move now, before he relocates. Max reluctantly gave the go-ahead. Ben slammed down the Omnitrix dial, transforming into a metallic version of Swampfire, his plant-based alien now infused with metal properties from his last absorption. Still not getting pure transformations, Ben noted, examining his metallic plant-like hands. But this should work. Gwen created a mana platform beneath their feet, lifting them toward the ship. Stay focused, Ben. Remember we're here for Kevin, not a confrontation with the collector. Trust me, I know exactly why we're here, Ben replied, his voice deeper than usual through the Swampfire transformation. As they approached the ship, the entry hatch suddenly opened. No welcoming committee, no defensive measures, just an open invitation. Definitely a trap, Gwen muttered. Definitely, Ben agreed. But Kevin's in there. They entered cautiously, Gwen's hands glowing with mana light to illuminate the darkened corridor beyond the hatch. The interior was surprisingly sparse, no crew, minimal furnishings, just sleek technological surfaces that pulsed with faint purple energy. Ben felt the energy immediately, a subtle call to his absorption abilities that he fought to ignore. Every surface, every tech panel seemed to whisper promises of power if he would just reach out and touch them. The energy signature is strongest that way, Gwen pointed down a central corridor, her eyes glowing as she tracked the mana flow. And I sense Kevin. He's alive. They moved quickly through the ship, following Gwen's mana tracking. The corridors seemed to shift subtly as they walked, rearranging themselves. This place is changing around us, Ben realized. Some kind of adaptive architecture. The ship is studying us, Gwen agreed uneasily. like everything else the collector owns. They finally reached what appeared to be the central chamber, a large, circular room filled with scientific equipment and monitoring stations. In the center, Kevin lay strapped to an examination table, unconscious but alive. The collector stood beside him, 6 hands working different control panels simultaneously. Benjamin Tennyson. Gwendolyn Tennyson, the collector greeted them without looking up from its work. Your arrival time exceeds projections by 3.7 minutes. Fascinating. Let Kevin go, Ben demanded, metallic plant tendrils extending from his arms in a threatening gesture. Your experiment is over. The collector finally turned to face them, 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Over. On the contrary. It enters its most critical phase. It gestured to Kevin. Your friend's osmosion abilities can be restored. However, the energy requirements are substantial. What are you talking about? Gwen asked, mana shields at the ready. A simple proposition, the collector explained. The abilities transferred to you, it nodded to Ben, have not been permanently integrated. They can be returned to their original host. But the process requires significant energy, more than this vessel can safely generate. Ben stepped forward cautiously. So what do you need? Ben, Gwen warned. Don't trust anything it says. The collector continued as if Gwen hadn't spoken. The Bellwood nuclear power plant contains sufficient energy to power the transfer reversal. With your assistance, Benjamin Tennyson, we could restore the natural order. Your friend regains his abilities. You return to your normal Omnitrix functionality. My experiment concludes with valuable data. And what do you get out of it? Ben asked suspiciously. Knowledge, the collector replied simply. The complete dataset of Osmosion/Omnitrix integration and disintegration. A unique observation opportunity. Don't listen to him, Ben, Kevin's voice came weakly from the examination table. He had regained consciousness during their conversation. It's lying. What it really wants is for you to absorb the nuclear plant's energy. An oversimplification, the collector stated. But not entirely inaccurate. The transfer requires a conduit, one with both Omnitrix and Osmosion capabilities. You must absorb and redirect the energy to power the transfer process. Ben looked at Kevin, then back at the collector. And if I refuse? Then your friend remains powerless, and you remain corrupted by abilities your system was never designed to contain. The collector's tone remained clinical, matter of fact. Based on my observations, your deterioration will accelerate. Within weeks, perhaps days, the energy addiction will overwhelm your personality matrix. You will become what Kevin Levin once was, a power-obsessed absorption addict, dangerous to all around you. The words hit Ben hard because they aligned with his own fears. He could feel the addiction even now, the constant craving for energy, for material to absorb. It took continuous effort to resist touching the energy-laden surfaces of the ship around him. There has to be another way, Gwen insisted. There is not, the collector stated. The transfer process requires specific energy parameters that only Benjamin can safely channel. Safely? Kevin scoffed from the table. There's nothing safe about absorbing that much nuclear energy. It'll fry your mind, Tennyson. But it would save you, Ben said quietly. Give you back your powers. Kevin strained against his restraints. Not worth it. Not if it costs you your sanity. Ben turned to the collector. Release him. Now. Then we'll talk terms. The collector considered for a moment, then pressed a sequence on the console. Kevin's restraints retracted, and he sat up slowly, wincing in pain. Gwen rushed to his side. Are you okay? Been better, Kevin grimaced. This freak's been running experiments on me for hours. Trying to jumpstart my powers with energy infusions. And the results were promising, the collector added. Your osmosion absorption matrix remains intact, merely dormant. With sufficient energy and the correct quantum resonance, your abilities can be restored. Ben stepped toward the collector. If I do this, if I help you complete your experiment, you leave Earth and never come back. No more treating us like lab rats. Ben, no. Kevin protested, getting to his feet unsteadily with Gwen's help. You can't absorb nuclear energy. It's too much, too dangerous. I don't see another option, Ben replied, his voice hard with determination. Either I do this and we both get back to normal, or I slowly lose my mind to these absorption powers anyway. The collector observed their interaction with detached interest. A decision is required. The ideal energy absorption window at the nuclear facility occurs within the next solar cycle. I'll do it, Ben decided, ignoring Gwen and Kevin's protests. But on my terms. We bring Plummer back up. We control the energy flow. And at the first sign of something going wrong, we shut it down. Acceptable parameters, the collector agreed. Though I must note that interrupting the energy transfer prematurely may result in permanent damage to both subjects. Kevin pushed away from Gwen, approaching Ben directly. This is insane, Tennyson. You have no idea what that much power will do to you. Actually, I do, Ben countered. I've been feeling it already, the addiction, the hunger. It's getting worse every day. If we don't fix this soon, I won't be me anymore. He looked Kevin in the eyes. You of all people should understand that. Kevin fell silent, unable to argue with the truth of Ben's words. He'd lived that nightmare, knew exactly where the path led. There must be another way, Gwen insisted. If there is, we haven't found it, Ben pointed out. And time's running out. For both of us. The collector's ship hummed to life around them. Then the arrangement is confirmed. We proceed to the energy facility. As they prepared to leave, Kevin pulled Ben aside. If you're really doing this, there's something you need to know. What's that? Kevin's expression was grim. When you absorb that much energy, you'll want to keep it. Every cell in your body will scream at you to hold on to that power. It'll promise you everything, strength, knowledge, control. You'll need to fight that urge with everything you have. Ben nodded soberly. I will. I mean it, Ben, Kevin insisted. I've been there. That moment, choosing between godlike power and doing the right thing, it's the hardest choice you'll ever make. I know who I am, Ben assured him. Hero time, remember. Kevin didn't look convinced. Just remember, no matter what it feels like in the moment, that power isn't yours to keep. I know, Ben said, though a small voice in the back of his mind whispered otherwise, a voice that grew louder with each passing day of living with these absorption abilities. The Bellwood nuclear power plant was one of the most secure facilities in the state, but Plummer Authority granted them access with minimal questions. Max had assembled a full tactical team, positioning them throughout the facility as Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and the collector made their way to the central reactor. The energy transfer device is prepared, the collector announced, gesturing to a modified version of the original device they'd encountered at the hybrid outpost. It now sat connected to the power plant's main control systems, pulsing with expectant energy. How exactly does this work? Max asked, skeptical eyes on the alien technology. The collector extended 4 of its 6 arms in an explanatory gesture. Benjamin will absorb energy from the reactor's cooling system, a controlled intake. The device will harmonize with both subjects' quantum signatures, creating a transfer pathway. As Benjamin channels the energy into the device, it will extract the osmosion abilities and return them to Kevin Levin. And the energy itself? Max pressed. Safely contained and dispersed through the device's absorption matrix, the collector assured him. No danger to the facility or surrounding areas. Kevin didn't look convinced. That's a lot of energy for Tennyson to handle, even temporarily. The Omnitrix will provide additional stability to his system, the collector stated. A fascinating variable in the experiment. This isn't an experiment, Ben reminded the alien firmly. It's a one-time procedure to fix your mistake. The collector merely blinked its 4 eyes in sequence, the equivalent of a shrug. Plumber technicians finished their safety checks on the modified device, giving Max a reluctant thumbs up. Everything appeared to be functioning as the collector described. Last chance to back out, Kevin told Ben quietly. Ben shook his head. Let's do this. The procedure began with technicians opening a controlled channel to the reactor's cooling system. Energy began to flow through specialized conduits toward the transfer device. Benjamin must make physical contact with the primary intake manifold, the collector instructed. Kevin Levin, position yourself at the output terminal. They moved to their designated positions, Ben standing before a pulsing energy conduit, Kevin at the opposite end of the device. Gwen and Max watched anxiously from behind protective shielding. Beginning energy flow in 3, 2, 1. The collector activated the device. The conduit before Ben surged with nuclear energy, glowing with intense blue-white light. Ben took a deep breath, then placed his hands on the conduit. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Energy flooded into him at a rate that dwarfed anything he'd previously absorbed. His body glowed from within, light streaming from his eyes and mouth as the power suffused every cell. Reading stable, a plumber technician called out. Subject is successfully channeling the energy. Inside Ben's mind, a storm raged. The power was indescribable, pure, raw, infinite. It wasn't just energy, it was knowledge, perception, awareness beyond anything human. He could feel the atoms splitting in the reactor core, could sense the electrical impulses in the brains of everyone around him, could perceive the quantum field underlying reality itself. Why would anyone give this up? Ben. Gwen's voice seemed to come from miles away. The device. You need to channel the energy into the device. With tremendous effort, Ben tore his attention from the cosmic awareness unfolding in his mind and focused on the transfer device. He directed a portion of the energy, just a trickle compared to what he was absorbing, into the machine. The device hummed to life, pulsing with transferred power. At the other end, Kevin gasped as energy began to flow into him, purple-white tendrils connecting him to the machine. Osmosion ability transfer initiating, the collector reported, monitoring displays on all sides. Quantum signatures aligning. Proceed with full power channeling. Ben increased the flow to the device, fighting against his own instincts which screamed at him to keep the energy, to absorb it all. The power in his body continued to build, making his skin crack and glow like cooling lava, energy seeping from the fissures. On the other end, Kevin's body began to change. His natural absorption abilities were reawakening, cells remembering their original function. He instinctively touched the metal platform beneath him, and for the first time in days, his skin transformed, taking on the material's properties. It's working. Gwen exclaimed, watching Kevin's transformation. The collector adjusted controls rapidly with all 6 arms. Transfer at 30% completion. Increasing resonance frequency to accelerate process. The device pulsed brighter, pulling more energy from Ben. For a moment, everything seemed to be proceeding as planned. Then Ben screamed. It wasn't a scream of pain, but of defiance. His body flared with intensified light as he suddenly stopped channeling energy to the device, instead pulling it back into himself. No! Kevin shouted, recognizing immediately what was happening. He's absorbing it all. The collectors. 4 eyes widened. Subject is rejecting the transfer protocol. Fascinating but problematic. Ben's feet left the ground as the energy lifted him into the air, his body now a vessel for more power than it was ever meant to contain. His features were barely visible behind the glare of energy emanating from him. More. Ben's voice echoed with unnatural resonance. I can see everything. Ben. Max called out desperately. Remember who you are. Remember why we're here. But Ben was lost in the euphoria of unlimited power. The energy addiction had completely overtaken him, amplified by the sheer magnitude of what he was absorbing. In his mind, giving this up seemed not just difficult but fundamentally wrong, like cutting off a limb or putting out his eyes. Kevin understood better than anyone what was happening. Without hesitation, he rushed forward, directly into the danger zone beneath the floating, energy-charged Ben. "Kevin, don't!" Gwen cried out, raising mana shields to protect the others as equipment began to short-circuit and explode around them. Kevin ignored her warning. "Tennyson! Listen to me," he shouted up at the glowing figure. "I know what you're feeling right now. Like you're a god, like you can reshape the world. But it's a lie." Ben's glowing eyes turned toward Kevin, recognition flickering briefly within them. "Remember who you are." Kevin continued, dodging falling debris as the ceiling began to crack from the energy pressure. "You're Ben Tennyson. The kid who found the Omnitrix and decided to help people instead of ruling them. The hero who saves the world because it's the right thing to do, not because it makes him powerful." Inside the maelstrom of energy and awareness, Ben heard Kevin's words. They seemed distant, almost irrelevant compared to the cosmic understanding unfolding in his consciousness, but something about them tugged at his core identity, the part of him that remained fundamentally Ben despite the power. "The nuclear containment systems are failing," a technician shouted. "We need to evacuate." "Not without Ben," Gwen insisted, reinforcing her mana shields. The Collector observed the situation with clinical interest, recording data even as chaos erupted around it. Subject exhibits unprecedented power integration. Osmosion abilities combined with Omnitrix failsafes have created a unique energy management system. "Shut up and help us stop this," Max demanded. "Intervention would contaminate the observation data," the Collector replied calmly. Kevin, meanwhile, continued trying to reach Ben. He absorbed metal from a nearby support beam, his powers partially restored by the interrupted transfer, and climbed up a collapsing scaffolding to get closer to his friend. "Ben! That power isn't yours!" Kevin shouted, now at eye level with the floating figure. "It belongs in the reactor, not in you. You know that." Ben's glowing eyes fixed on Kevin. When he spoke, his voice still resonated with power, but something of his normal self broke through. "Kevin. I can't, let go. It's too much. Too good." "I know," Kevin said with complete understanding. "Believe me, I know. But you have to. For Gwen. For your family. For yourself." Ben's expression twisted with conflict, the battle between addiction and identity playing out across his energy-suffused features. "The facility will reach critical failure in 2 minutes, a plumber announced urgently. Core meltdown imminent." Kevin made a desperate decision. Fully activating his partially restored absorption abilities, he reached out and grabbed Ben's glowing arm. The contact was like touching a star. Pain seared through Kevin as the energy tried to flow into him, too much for his still recovering abilities to handle. But he held on, using his own absorption to create a connection, a channel. "What are you doing?" Ben gasped, feeling the connection form. Sharing the load, Kevin grimaced through the pain. "You can't release it all at once, it'll destroy the facility. But together, we can channel it back to the reactor. Controlled release." Ben hesitated, the addiction fighting against logic. "I don't want to." "I know you don't," Kevin acknowledged, his metal form beginning to glow as energy transferred through him. "But you will. Because you're Ben 10. And Ben 10 always does the right thing, no matter how hard it is." Those words, the simple truth of them, finally broke through. With a cry of both anguish and determination, Ben released his hold on the power. Energy began to flow from him through Kevin, who directed it back toward the reactor's containment systems. The Collector, seeing the experiment taking an unexpected turn, quickly adjusted its device to assist the energy redirection. Fascinating adaptation. Dual osmosion channeling creates stable energy conduit. As the energy drained from Ben's system, his appearance gradually returned to normal. The glow faded, his feet slowly descended to the floor, and his awareness contracted from cosmic back to human. The loss was painful, like withdrawing from an intense drug, but with each passing second, his mind cleared further. "Reactor stabilizing," a technician announced. "Energy levels returning to normal parameters." Finally, the last of the excess energy dissipated, leaving Ben and Kevin collapsed on the floor, exhausted but alive. The transfer device powered down with a final pulse, its purpose fulfilled, though not exactly as the collector had planned. Gwen rushed to them, kneeling between their prone forms. "Are you okay? Both of you?" Kevin sat up slowly, examining his hands. He touched the floor experimentally, and his skin immediately took on its concrete properties. "Powers back. Not at full strength, but definitely back." Ben remained lying on his back, staring at the ceiling. He felt hollow, diminished, but also, strangely, relieved. "Did it work? Are mine gone?" Kevin helped him sit up. "Try it." Ben concentrated, reaching out to touch the metal debris beside him. Nothing happened, no absorption, no transformation. He activated the Omnitrix, and it cycled through alien forms normally for the first time in days. "Back to normal," he confirmed, a mixture of loss and relief in his voice. The collector approached, surveying them with its 4 analytical eyes. Experiment concluded with unexpected methodology but valuable results nonetheless. "The symbiotic channeling technique you demonstrated opens new research avenues. You're not researching anything else on this planet," Max stated firmly, "plumber weapons trained on the alien. As agreed, you're leaving Earth. Permanently." The collector inclined its head. "Agreement parameters fulfilled. Though I would note that both subjects may experience lingering effects from the transfer process. Osmosion. Abilities, once integrated with living tissue, often leave impressions." Ben and Kevin exchanged concerned glances. "What kind of impressions?" Ben asked. "Memory echoes. Phantom absorption sensations. Perhaps occasional power fluctuations." The collector's tone remained clinical. "Nothing life-threatening, merely interesting." "Get off my planet," Max ordered, patience exhausted. The collector activated its teleportation device without further argument. "Farewell, subjects. Your contributions to science have been noted." It vanished in a flash of purple light. In the aftermath, as plumber team secured the facility and assessed the damage, Ben sat apart from the others, strangely quiet. Kevin found him staring at his hands, opening and closing them as if expecting something to happen. "Weird, isn't it?" Kevin said, sitting beside him. "Feeling normal again?" Ben nodded slowly. "I can still feel it. Not the power itself, but the memory of it. Like a ghost limb. That'll fade. Mostly." Kevin studied his own hands. "But you never completely forget what it felt like. How did you do it?" Ben asked quietly. "Live with that addiction for years? The constant craving?" Kevin shrugged. "Didn't have much choice. Eventually found better things to want." His gaze drifted to where Gwen was helping coordinate the cleanup efforts. Ben followed his gaze and nodded in understanding. "I almost lost myself in there. If you hadn't reached me, you'd have done the same for me," Kevin said simply. "Have done, in fact. Multiple times." They sat in companionable silence for a moment. "I owe you an apology," Ben finally said. "I was a jerk. Said things I shouldn't have." Energy addiction talking, Kevin dismissed. "Trust me, I've said and done way worse under its influence. Still. I get it now, what you've been fighting all these years. The constant struggle." Ben looked at his friend with newfound respect. "Makes your reformation even more impressive." Kevin smiled slightly, uncomfortable with the praise. "Yeah, well. Don't go spreading that around." Got a reputation to maintain. Ben laughed, a normal, Ben Tennyson laugh without the edge it had carried for days. Your secret's safe with me. Wouldn't want anyone thinking Kevin Levin's gone soft. As they rejoined the others, Ben couldn't help touching various surfaces as they passed, metal railings, concrete barriers, half expecting to feel the familiar rush of absorption. Nothing happened, of course, but the impulse remained. The collector had been right about one thing, some impressions would linger. But as Ben activated the Omnitrix and felt the familiar, clean energy of transformation flow through him, he knew he could handle whatever came next. Some powers weren't meant to be his, but the ones he had were more than enough. Chapter 3, Balance Restored. Dude, stop doing that. It's creeping me out. Ben snatched his hand away from the rust bucket's metal wall, caught red-handed. Again. A week after the nuclear plant showdown, he still couldn't stop reaching for things, expecting that familiar rush of absorption that never came. Sorry, Ben mumbled, shoving his hands into his pockets. Force of habit. Kevin shot him a look from the driver's seat. Yeah, well, break it. You're making me twitchy. Gwen, sandwiched between them in the front of Kevin's car, the actual rust bucket was getting repairs after their last mission, rolled her eyes. You're both being ridiculous. Ben, you don't have absorption powers anymore. Kevin, stop being so sensitive about it. Easy for you to say, Kevin grumbled, absently running his finger along the steering wheel, his skin briefly taking on its properties. You didn't spend a week powerless while watching Tennyson mess around with your abilities. Which I never asked for. Ben protested for the 100th time. Boys, Gwen warned, pink mana flickering at her fingertips. Do I need to separate you two? They both fell silent, but the tension lingered in the cramped car. 3 weeks had passed since the collector's experiment. 3 weeks of awkward adjustments, phantom power sensations, and the occasional frayed temper. On the surface, everything was back to normal. Ben had his Omnitrix working properly again, Kevin had his absorption powers restored, and they were back to their regular alien fighting schedule. But something had changed between them. The experience had left invisible scars. So, Ben said, desperate to break the silence, remind me why we're driving to this remote observatory in the middle of nowhere instead of, I don't know, literally anything else on a Saturday night. Gwen pulled up a holographic display from her plumber badge. Because 3 different deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual energy surges in this sector. Energy with the same signature as, the collector, Kevin finished grimly. I'd recognize that purple energy pattern anywhere after what that freak did to us. Ben straightened in his seat. You think he's back? On Earth? Not on Earth, Gwen corrected. The energy signature is coming from just beyond our solar system. But it's massive, like nothing recorded before. The observatory has the most powerful telescope in this hemisphere. If anyone can get a visual on what's happening, it's them. Kevin's hands tightened on the wheel. If that 6-armed creep is back, I've got some unfinished business with him. Get in line, Ben muttered. The Mount Wilson Observatory looked deserted when they arrived, which immediately set off alarm bells. The place should have been bustling with astronomers, especially with anomalous readings coming in. I don't like this, Kevin said, absorbing metal from the car door as they exited. Too quiet. Ben activated the Omnitrix, hovering his hand over the dial. Split up or stick together? Together, Gwen decided firmly. Last time we faced the collector, he managed to separate us. Not happening again. They approached the main dome cautiously. The massive telescope inside was pointed skyward, its systems running on automatic. Screens around the room displayed star charts and energy readings, but no personnel. Hello? Ben called out. Anyone here? Astronomers? Scientists? Random janitors? His voice echoed through the empty facility. They didn't just leave this stuff running and go home, Kevin noted, examining the active equipment. Something happened here. Gwen's eyes glowed pink as she extended her mana senses. I'm picking up residual energy trails. Recent. Leading. She pointed to a door marked Restricted Access. That way. The door led to a smaller observation room with specialized equipment. Unlike the main dome, this room showed signs of struggle, knocked over chairs, scattered papers, a coffee mug shattered on the floor, its contents long dried. Okay, this is officially creepy, Ben said, transforming into Swampfire with a flash of green light. The plant-like alien's natural luminescence provided better visibility in the darkened room. Kevin knelt by a strange mark on the floor, a perfect circle of scorched material. Teleport signature, he identified immediately. Just like at the power plant. The collector took them, Gwen realized, horror in her voice. The entire observatory staff. Ben's flame-topped head flickered with agitation. But why? What would he want with a bunch of astronomers? Kevin moved to the main computer console, which was still active. Let's find out what they were looking at before they vanished. His fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling up the last recorded observations. The screen filled with an image that made all three of them step back. What the hell is that? Ben whispered. The telescope had captured an enormous structure in deep space, a massive, crystalline web surrounding what appeared to be a small moon or large asteroid. Purple energy pulsed through the structure like blood through veins, all flowing toward a central point where a ship was docked, a ship they recognized as the collector's vessel. It's some kind of collection facility, Gwen said, studying the image. Look at those smaller structures. She pointed to pod-like compartments embedded throughout the crystal web. Those almost look like containment cells, Kevin finished grimly. Hundreds of them. Ben leaned closer to the screen. Zoom in on that section. Kevin adjusted the controls, focusing on a cluster of cells. As the image sharpened, they could make out figures inside, beings of various species, each surrounded by specialized energy fields. He's collecting people, Ben realized, his voice tight with anger. Not just their powers, actual people with unique abilities. That's what he was trying to do with us, Kevin said. The whole power transfer thing, it was just his first attempt. When that didn't work out the way he wanted, he must have decided to just take complete specimens instead. Gwen's face paled. The astronomers. They saw his facility, so he took them to keep it secret. But why reveal it now? Ben wondered. The energy surges were detectable from Earth. He must have known we'd investigate. Kevin's expression darkened with sudden understanding. Because he wants us to see it. This is an invitation. Or a trap, Gwen added. Definitely a trap, Ben agreed, turning back to human form with a flash of red light. But we can't just leave those people there. And if the collector's expanding his collection, Earth is full of powered individuals he might target next. Kevin straightened, decision made. We need to take this to the plumbers. Get a full tactical team assembled. And we need transportation, Gwen added. That facility is beyond our solar system. The Rust Bucket 3 could make it, but it's currently in pieces after our run-in with Vulcanus last week, Kevin finished with a grimace. Great timing. Ben's face suddenly lit up with an idea. I know someone who might help us with both problems. Someone who owes me a favor. Kevin and Gwen exchanged questioning looks. Who? Gwen asked. Ben grinned, already dialing his plumber badge. Our favorite intergalactic bounty hunter. Tetrax Shard's crystalline face was as unreadable as ever as his ship, the Resolute, streaked through hyperspace toward the collector's facility. The Petrosapian bounty hunter stood at the command console, reviewing tactical displays while Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and a team of 6 elite plumbers prepared their equipment. We'll drop out of hyperspace behind the 7th moon of Galvan Prime, Tetrax explained, highlighting the approach vector. The natural crystal formations in the lunar surface will help mask our energy signature until we're ready to make our move. Remind me again why we're not bringing a full plumber assault team, one of the plumbers asked, checking her energy rifle. Grandpa Max, who had insisted on joining the mission despite Ben's protests, answered, because we don't know what kind of security systems we're dealing with. The collector has technology we've never encountered before, and he's holding hostages. A small infiltration team has the best chance of success. Ben nodded in agreement. Get in, free the prisoners, apprehend the collector, get out. Clean and simple. Kevin snorted. When has anything involving you ever been clean and simple, Tennyson? First time for everything, Ben replied with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Despite his outward confidence, something about this mission had him on edge. Ever since they discovered the collector's facility, he'd been experiencing strange sensations, phantom power surges, like aftershocks from his brief time with absorption abilities. Gwen noticed his discomfort. You okay? She asked quietly, moving to stand beside him at the weapons rack. Fine, he said automatically. Then, seeing her skeptical look, he sighed. Just, feeling weird. Like something's pulling at me. Gwen's brow furrowed with concern. The collector said there might be aftereffects from the power transfer. It's probably nothing, Ben dismissed, selecting a plumber-issue stun blaster as backup. Just pre-mission jitters. But it wasn't nothing, and they both knew it. Something about the collector's facility was calling to him, even from this distance. Like a tuning fork that had been struck, vibrating at a frequency only he could feel. Tetrax interrupted their conversation with an announcement, exiting hyperspace in 3 minutes. All personnel to battle stations. The team gathered at the command deck as the swirling vortex of hyperspace gave way to normal space. The seventh moon of Galvan Prime loomed before them, a craggy, crystalline satellite that glittered in the light of distant stars. And beyond it, exactly where the observatory data had indicated, hung the collector's facility. It was even more impressive up close, a massive crystalline structure at least a mile across, with the central asteroid barely visible beneath layers of technology and containment cells. Purple energy pulsed through transparent conduits connecting different sections, all flowing toward the central hub where the collector's ship was docked. Whoa, Ben breathed, staring at the main view screen. That's bigger than I expected. Life sign readings are off the charts, one of the plumbers reported, checking her scanner. I'm detecting at least 300 distinct signatures throughout the structure, most concentrated in those pod-like formations. His collection, Max said grimly. Beings with powers or unique abilities from across the galaxy, if his pattern holds true. Kevin studied the facility structure with narrowed eyes. Security looks heavy. Automated defense turrets, patrol drones, and those energy conduits probably double as sensors. Tetrax zoomed in on different sections of the facility. There's a maintenance access point here, he indicated a smaller docking port near the bottom of the structure. Likely used for supply deliveries. Less heavily guarded than the main entrances. That's our way in, Max decided. Tetrax, can your ship's systems mimic a supply vessel's signature? The bounty hunter nodded, his crystalline features catching the light. For a short time, yes. Enough to get us docked before they realize we're not authorized. Then that's the plan, Ben said, activating the Omnitrix in preparation. We dock, infiltrate, locate the Earth scientists and any other prisoners we can free, then find and apprehend the collector. And if we can't apprehend him, one of the plumbers asked. Max's expression hardened. Then we shut down his operation permanently. By any means necessary. The gravity of the situation settled over the group. This wasn't their usual mission, they were far from Earth, outmanned and possibly outgunned, infiltrating a facility filled with unknown dangers. One more thing, Tetrax added as they prepared for approach. Our scans detect an unusual energy core at the center of the facility. It's putting out readings similar to the device that transferred powers between Ben and Kevin, but on a massive scale. Kevin and Ben exchanged concerned glances. What's he powering with that much energy? Kevin wondered. Nothing good, Ben replied. Let's check out the creepy energy core, to our to-do list. As the Resolute carefully maneuvered behind the crystalline moon, using its natural formations as cover, Ben felt the strange pull intensify. Whatever was at the heart of the collector's facility, it was calling to him, like a part of himself he hadn't known was missing. And that terrified him more than any alien threat ever had. The maintenance dock was just as Tetrax had predicted, less heavily guarded, but still protected by automated scanning systems. The Resolute's transponder successfully mimicked a supply vessel for the crucial minutes it took to complete docking procedures. Security override in 3, 2, 1. Tetrax counted down, his hands moving over the control console. We're in. But they'll realize something's wrong within 15 minutes when we don't begin standard supply offloading. Then we move fast, Max ordered. Team Alpha with me, we locate and secure the Earth scientists. Team Beta with Ben, find the central control room and apprehend the collector. Maintain comm link at all times, and rendezvous back here in exactly 40 minutes. Ben transformed with a flash of green light, becoming Jet Ray, the aerodynamic, manta ray-like alien perfect for rapid movement through the facility's corridors. Gwen, Kevin, with me, he said, his voice altered by the transformation. Let's find our six-armed friend and shut this place down. They moved through the airlock and into the facility itself. The interior was a stark contrast to the organic, crystalline appearance outside, sleek, clinical, with transparent tubes running along the walls and ceiling, carrying pulsing purple energy. The floor hummed with power beneath their feet. This way, Gwen whispered, her eyes glowing as she sensed the energy flows. The strongest concentration is coming from the central hub. They moved quickly through maintenance corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where security would be heaviest. Occasionally they passed windows looking out into larger chambers filled with the containment pods they'd seen in the observatory images. Each pod held a different being, some humanoid, others utterly alien, all suspended in fields of energy. This is sick, Kevin muttered, peering into one chamber containing dozens of pods. He's treating them like specimens in a collection. That's exactly what they are to him, Ben replied grimly. Remember what he called us? Subjects, not people. As they progressed deeper into the facility, the strange pulling sensation Ben had been experiencing intensified. It was like a magnet drawing him forward, an inexplicable certainty about which way to turn at each junction. Ben? Gwen asked, noticing how he'd taken the lead, no longer following her mana tracking. How do you know where to go? I don't know, he admitted, his jet ray form twitching with nervous energy. I can feel something, calling me. It's getting stronger the deeper we go. Kevin frowned, his hand absently touching a wall and absorbing its metallic composition. That doesn't sound good, Tennyson. Tell me about it, Ben muttered. But it's leading us where we need to go. The pull led them to a massive set of doors, easily 15 feet tall, inscribed with symbols none of them recognized. Unlike the rest of the facility's sleek tech aesthetic, these doors looked ancient, carved from some dark material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Well, that's not ominous at all, Kevin remarked sarcastically. Gwen approached the doors cautiously, her hands glowing with mana. There's incredible power beyond this threshold. Whatever the collector is using as his energy source, it's in there. Ben reverted to human form, the Omnitrix timing out with perfect inconvenience. Any ideas how to get through? I'm betting these aren't standard automatic doors. Kevin placed his metal-coated hands against the surface. Material's weird. Like nothing I've absorbed before. Dense, but I don't know, almost alive somehow. Allow me, Gwen said, stepping forward. Her eyes glowed pink as she reached out with her mana, searching for the locking mechanism. There's a sequence, a pattern to the energy flow. Her hands moved in complex gestures, pink energy forming symbols in the air that matched those on the door. With each correct symbol, the corresponding marking on the door illuminated briefly. Almost got it, she murmured. Just one more sequence. The final symbol clicked into place, and the massive doors began to part with a low, resonant hum. Light spilled through the widening gap, not the clinical white illumination of the rest of the facility, but a pulsing, purple-tinged radiance that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "Okay, I'm officially getting bad vibes," Kevin said, stepping back involuntarily. "Whatever's in there," Ben stepped forward, drawn by the inexorable pull that had been guiding him. "It's calling me." "Ben, wait." Gwen grabbed his arm. "We don't know what's in there." But Ben's eyes were transfixed on the widening doorway, the purple light reflecting in them with hypnotic intensity. "I have to see," he whispered. "I can feel it, part of me is in there somehow." Before either Gwen or Kevin could stop him, Ben pulled free and walked through the doorway. And froze at the sight that greeted him. The chamber beyond was enormous, a perfect sphere at least 100 meters in diameter. The walls were lined with thousands of crystalline containers, each holding a swirling, luminous essence of different colors and intensities. Energy conduits connected each container to a central apparatus suspended in the middle of the chamber, a complex array of machinery surrounding what looked like a miniature sun, pulsing with concentrated power. And standing at a control console before this artificial star was the collector, its 6 arms working different interfaces simultaneously. Benjamin Tennyson, the alien greeted without turning around. "Right on schedule, as always." Ben barely registered the words. His attention was fixed on the containers lining the walls, or more specifically, on one container near the central apparatus that pulsed with familiar green and purple light. Something inside him resonated with it, like a tuning fork vibrating to its matching pitch. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the humming energy. "What are those things?" The collector finally turned, its 4 eyes blinking in sequence as it regarded Ben with clinical interest. "My true collection. Not the beings themselves, they are merely vessels. What you see here is the essence of their powers, extracted and preserved." Kevin and Gwen entered the chamber behind Ben, both stopping in shock at the sight before them. "You're extracting powers from people?" Gwen asked, horror in her voice. "That's why you take them, to steal their abilities?" "Steal implies ownership," the collector replied calmly. "Powers are not possessions, merely temporary manifestations channeled through biological matrices. I simply liberate them for proper study and preservation." Kevin's hands clenched into metal fists. "And what happens to the vessels after you're done?" "They are maintained in stasis. Unharmed, merely diminished." The collector gestured to the crystalline containers. "Each essence you see represents a unique energy pattern: Pyronite thermokinesis, Galilean gravitational manipulation, cerebrocrustacean electrokinesis, thousands of distinct abilities from across the galaxy, preserved for eternity." Ben tore his gaze away from the hypnotic containers to focus on the collector. "The scientists from Earth. Where are they?" "Recently acquired and being processed," the collector answered, as if discussing routine paperwork. "Their unique neural patterns allow exceptional astronomical observation abilities, minor compared to many specimens, but statistically significant variations from baseline humans." "They don't have powers," Ben argued. "They're just smart people doing their jobs." "Intelligence itself is a power," the collector stated simply. "Patterns of thought that transcend ordinary processing, worthy of preservation." Ben activated the Omnitrix, fury building. "You're harvesting people's minds now. That's a whole new level of sick, even for you." The collector seemed unmoved by Ben's anger. "Your moral objections are noted but irrelevant to the greater purpose. Knowledge must be preserved, especially in unique forms that evolve naturally throughout the universe." Gwen stepped forward, mana glowing around her hands. "We're shutting this place down and freeing everyone you've captured." "That would be inadvisable," the collector replied. "The power extraction process is delicate. Interruption could destroy both the essences and their original hosts." Kevin had been studying the central apparatus while they talked. That's the same tech you used on Ben and me, isn't it? But supercharged. A simplified variation of my primary extraction matrix, yes, the collector confirmed. The device you encountered was merely a field prototype, successful in transfer but insufficient for complete extraction and preservation. Ben's attention kept being pulled back to one specific container, the one pulsing with green and purple light. "What's that one?" he asked, pointing. "The green and purple one." All four of the collector's eyes blinked simultaneously, the equivalent of surprise. "You sense it, don't you?" "Fascinating. The connection persists despite transfer reversal." "What connection?" Ben demanded. "What is that?" The collector moved to the container in question. "When my device transferred osmosion abilities between you and Kevin Levin, it created a unique energy signature, a hybrid pattern of osmosion absorption power and Omnitrix transformation energy. During the reversal process, a portion of this hybridized energy was neither returned to Kevin Levin nor reintegrated with your Omnitrix. It exists as its own distinct pattern, a new power type born from the combination of your two unique systems." Ben stared at the swirling green and purple essence in the container. "That's part of me. And Kevin?" "Neither and both," the collector clarified. "It is its own entity now, a power signature unlike any in my collection. The first truly new ability pattern I have catalogued in centuries." Kevin stepped closer to Ben, eyeing the container suspiciously. "So that's why Tennyson's been feeling weird. This leftover power is calling to him." "A natural resonance," the collector confirmed. "The power recognizes its origin points." Gwen's eyes narrowed with sudden understanding. "That's why you let us find your facility. You want Ben and Kevin here, close to this hybrid energy you've created." For the first time, the collector's clinical demeanor shifted slightly, a hint of anticipation entering its voice. Proximity may trigger full reintegration, or complete separation. Either result provides valuable observational data. "We're not your lab rats anymore," Ben snapped, his hand hovering over the Omnitrix dial. "We're here to shut you down and free your prisoners." The collector tilted its head. "Are you certain that is what you want, Benjamin Tennyson? The hybrid energy contains potential beyond your current capabilities. Reabsorbing it could grant you both Omnitrix functionality and permanent osmosion absorption abilities, the best of both worlds, without the previous instability." The offer hung in the air, tempting and terrible. Ben's hand froze over the Omnitrix as he stared at the swirling energy. He could feel it calling to him, promising power beyond anything he'd experienced before, greater than the Omnitrix alone, more controlled than Kevin's wild absorption abilities. "Ben, don't listen to him," Kevin warned, recognizing the look in his friend's eyes. "He's playing you." But Ben took an unconscious step toward the container. Would the absorption powers be stable this time? Not addictive like before? The hybrid pattern appears to have achieved equilibrium between Omnitrix regulation and osmosion absorption capability, the collector replied. Theoretical models suggest greatly reduced addiction potential, though of course, only practical application would confirm. Gwen moved to Ben's side, placing a restraining hand on his arm. "Ben, this is exactly what he wants. You can't trust anything he says." Ben blinked, torn between the rational voice of his cousin and the siren call of the power before him. "But if it's already part of me, part of us," he glanced at Kevin, "maybe it's meant to be reclaimed." Kevin's expression hardened. "That's the addiction talking, Tennyson. Even after all this time, it's still in your head, whispering. Trust me, I know exactly how it feels." The collector observed their interaction with clinical interest. The psychological imprinting of osmosion abilities persists despite physical transfer reversal. "Most interesting." "Shut up," Kevin snapped at the alien before turning back to Ben. "Listen to me. Whatever that thing is," he pointed at the container, "it's not worth the risk. We came here to free the collector's prisoners and shut this place down, not to get our powers mixed up again." Ben's gaze remained fixed on the swirling energy. "But what if he's right? What if this could give us an advantage, a new way to protect people? At what cost? Gwen pressed. Remember what happened last time? The standoff was interrupted by Max's voice coming through their communicator. Ben, do you copy? We've located the Earth scientists and several other prisoners, but we're encountering heavy resistance from security systems. What's your status? The sound of his grandfather's voice seemed to break through Ben's trance. He shook his head, stepping back from the container. Copy that, Grandpa. We've found the collector and his collection. Working on shutdown now. You disappoint me, Benjamin, the collector said, its 4 eyes narrowing. I had hoped you would choose knowledge over fear. It's not fear, Ben replied, finally selecting an alien on the Omnitrix dial. It's learning from experience. He slammed down the dial, and green light enveloped him. When it faded, Big Chill stood in his place, the moth-like alien's wings spreading wide. Now, let's talk about shutting down this whole operation, Big Chill said, his breathy voice echoing in the spherical chamber. The collector's 6 hands moved in. Perfect coordination, activating controls on different interfaces. If you will not participate willingly in the experiment, I must proceed with alternative methodology. The central apparatus suddenly pulsed brighter, energy surging through the conduits connecting to the wall containers. Throughout the chamber, the preserved power essences began to glow more intensely. What are you doing? Gwen demanded, raising mana shields instinctively. Initiating full integration test, the collector replied calmly. If direct reabsorption is rejected, perhaps forced exposure will yield useful data. The container holding the hybrid green-purple energy began to vibrate, cracks appearing in its crystalline surface. He's going to release it. Kevin warned, backing away. That energy isn't stable. Too late, the collector stated. The container shattered, and the hybrid energy within surged outward like a living thing, spiraling through the air directly toward Ben and Kevin. Ben acted instinctively, turning intangible with Big Chill's abilities. The energy passed through his ghostly form, unable to make contact. Kevin wasn't so lucky. He didn't have time to fully absorb the floor's material before the energy struck him, enveloping him in a cocoon of green and purple light. Kevin! Gwen screamed, rushing toward him but unable to penetrate the energy field now surrounding him. Inside the cocoon, Kevin writhed in apparent agony as the hybrid energy attempted to reintegrate with his system. His form flickered between normal and various absorbed states, metal, stone, crystal, as if his powers were going haywire. Fascinating response, the collector observed, recording data on a portable device. The hybrid pattern seems incompatible with singular reintegration. It requires both original hosts. Ben solidified, hovering anxiously near the energy cocoon. Make it stop. He's in pain. Pain is merely data, the collector replied dismissively. The process must continue to completion. Fury surged through Ben. He flew directly at the collector, ice breath ready to freeze the alien in place. The collector responded with surprising agility, 4 of its arms producing weapons while the other 2 continued monitoring the experiment. Energy blasts forced Ben to dodge and weave, unable to get a clear shot. Meanwhile, Gwen frantically tried to disrupt the energy field around Kevin. Her mana shields couldn't penetrate it, and direct mana attacks simply seemed to feed the swirling vortex. Ben, she called desperately. I can't get through to him. Ben ducked another energy blast, ice forming along his wings where it had grazed him. Keep trying. I'll handle our 6-armed friend. The collector backed toward the central apparatus, still firing precisely calculated shots to keep Ben at bay. Your interference is counterproductive, Benjamin Tennyson. The experiment proceeds according to parameters. Your experiment is over, Ben declared, finally managing to get close enough to unleash a blast of freezing breath. Ice formed rapidly around 2 of the collector's arms, immobilizing them. The alien barely reacted to the partial immobilization, its other 4 limbs continuing to function with perfect coordination. You cannot halt the process now that it has begun. The hybrid energy must integrate or disperse, and dispersion could have catastrophic consequences for all 3,000 specimens in this facility. That made Ben hesitate. What do you mean, catastrophic? The hybrid pattern has destabilized, the collector explained, as if discussing an interesting but minor anomaly rather than an imminent disaster. Its unique properties are resonating with the other preserved essences. Without proper containment or reintegration, cascading energy release becomes probable. Gwen, still trying to reach Kevin, looked up in alarm. You're saying all these containers could rupture? Release all these different powers at once? Precisely, the collector confirmed. The theoretical interaction of thousands of distinct energy patterns simultaneously released would be unpredictable. You mean deadly, Ben translated grimly. To everyone on this station. A regrettable but scientifically significant possibility, the collector agreed. Inside the energy cocoon, Kevin had stopped thrashing and now hovered limp within the swirling vortex. His eyes were open but vacant, his body intermittently shifting between different absorbed states. Kevin. Gwen called to him, tears of frustration and fear in her eyes. Can you hear me? To everyone's surprise, Kevin's head turned slightly toward her voice. His lips moved, though no sound penetrated the energy field. He's still conscious in there, Ben realized. Fighting it somehow. The collector tilted its head, studying the readings on its device. Unexpected resistance. Subject Kevin Levin appears to be rejecting portions of the hybrid pattern while accepting others. Most unusual. Ben looked between Kevin in the energy field and the collector with its endless clinical detachment, and made a decision. If the energy needs both original hosts to stabilize, he said, reverting from Big Chill to human form, then give it both hosts. Ben, no. Gwen cried out, realizing what he intended. But Ben had already stepped toward the energy cocoon surrounding Kevin, his hand outstretched. It's part of both of us. Maybe that's the problem, it can't choose. Ben, you don't know what will happen. Gwen protested. Intriguing hypothesis, the collector noted, all four eyes focused intently on Ben. Direct intervention by both original hosts could potentially stabilize the pattern. Ben took a deep breath, steeling himself. Only one way to find out. Before Gwen could stop him, he plunged his hand into the swirling energy field. The effect was immediate and electric, power surged up his arm and through his entire body, connecting him to Kevin through the hybrid energy that belonged to them both. Ben's mind exploded with sensation and awareness beyond anything he'd experienced before. He could feel Kevin's consciousness, his memories, his struggle against the invading energy. He could sense the Omnitrix responding to the hybrid power, integrating it rather than fighting it. And most distinctly, he could feel the energy itself, not wild and addictive like before, but balanced, as if the time spent as its own entity had somehow tempered its nature. Kevin. Ben called out, not with his voice but with his mind, reaching through the connection. Can you hear me? Kevin's consciousness stirred within the shared energy space. Tennyson. What did you do? Trying to help, Ben replied mentally. This energy can't decide between us. It's tearing itself apart trying to choose. So your solution was to jump in? Kevin's mental voice was heavy with familiar sarcasm. Brilliant plan. Got a better one? Kevin's consciousness seemed to gather itself, focusing. Maybe. This energy, it's different from before. More structured. Ben sensed it too. Unlike the raw, chaotic power of pure osmosion absorption, this hybrid energy had patterns, limitations, organization. The Omnitrix influence, he realized. It's stabilizing the absorption capabilities. And my absorption experience is helping regulate the Omnitrix energy, Kevin added. It's like balance. Outside the energy cocoon, Gwen and the collector watched as the wild, erratic swirls began to smooth into more ordered patterns. The green and purple light separated into distinct streams that flowed around and through both Ben and Kevin. Remarkable, the collector murmured, recording frantically. They're stabilizing the pattern through conscious cooperation rather than competitive absorption. An unprecedented methodology. Gwen's eyes glowed as she sensed the changes in the energy field. They're working together somehow. The energy is responding. Within the shared consciousness space, Ben and Kevin reached a wordless understanding. Rather than fighting over the energy or rejecting it entirely, they began guiding it, Kevin directing the absorption properties. With his years of experience, Ben channeling the transformation aspects through his connection to the Omnitrix. We need to split it, Ben communicated. Not evenly, but properly. The absorption control belongs with you. And the transformation enhancement belongs with the Omnitrix, Kevin agreed. But there's something else here too, something new. They both sensed it, a third pattern within the hybrid energy, something that hadn't existed in either of their original powers. A catalyst or bridge between abilities that had emerged from their combination. What do we do with that part? Ben wondered. Share it, Kevin decided. Neither of us owns it. It's something new. With that decision made, they began the conscious separation and redistribution of the energy. It flowed between them, finding its natural balance, absorption control returning primarily to Kevin, transformation enhancement reintegrating with the Omnitrix, and the bridge pattern splitting between them. Outside, the energy cocoon began to contract, the wild tendrils pulling back toward Ben and Kevin. The collector backed away, all 6 arms now devoted to recording the unprecedented event. The subjects are consciously redirecting the energy flow, it reported to its own devices. Voluntary redistribution rather than competitive absorption. This suggests higher cognitive interaction with energy patterns than previously documented in any species. Gwen watched anxiously as the energy field grew smaller and more concentrated around Ben and Kevin. Their bodies were now clearly visible through the thinning energy, both with eyes closed in deep concentration, hands stretched toward each other but not quite touching. Finally, with a flash of blinding light, the energy field collapsed entirely. The force of it knocked Gwen off her feet and sent the collector sliding back several meters. When the light faded, Ben and Kevin stood facing each other, both looking dazed but unharmed. The hybrid energy was gone, not dispersed, but reintegrated into its original hosts in new configurations. Ben. Kevin. Gwen approached cautiously. Are you okay? Ben blinked several times, as if adjusting to changes in his vision. I think so. That was intense. Kevin flexed his hands, which shifted momentarily into metal without him touching anything. Something's different. The collector recovered its balance, approaching with its recording device extended. Fascinating outcome. Initial reading suggests successful redistribution with significant modifications to original power parameters. May I scan for detailed analysis? You can back off is what you can do, Ben snapped, suddenly protective. The Omnitrix on his wrist glowed slightly, not the activation glow, but something subtler, as if responding to his emotions. The collector seemed unperturbed by Ben's hostility. The scientific significance of what you have accomplished cannot be overstated. You have, it never finished the sentence. Kevin, moving with startling speed, had crossed the distance between them and grabbed the alien with hands that shifted instantly into crystalline formation, like Diamond Head's material, but without Ben needing to transform. Let me make something perfectly clear, Kevin said, lifting the collector off the ground with newfound strength. We are done being your experiments. This facility is shut down. Everyone you've captured goes free. Right now. All 4 of the collector's eyes blinked rapidly. You've absorbed Petrosapien material without physical contact. Impossible without. Without what we just did, Ben finished, stepping up beside Kevin. He raised his hand, and to everyone's surprise, green energy similar to Gwen's mana constructs formed around it. Looks like your hybrid energy left us with some upgrades. The collector's scientific curiosity visibly warred with self-preservation. The implications are extraordinary. A small tissue sample from each of you would, not happening, Gwen interrupted, her own mana shields forming. Now, tell us how to safely release all your prisoners and shut down this facility, or find out what else they can do with their new abilities. For a moment, it seemed the collector might refuse. Then its shoulders slumped slightly in what appeared to be the alien equivalent of a sigh. The central console controls all containment systems, it said, gesturing with one of its free arms toward the apparatus. The release protocol requires authentication, but can be overridden with sufficient energy input to the primary matrix. Kevin looked at Ben. Sufficient energy input, huh? Ben grinned, the Omnitrix glowing on his wrist. I think we can manage that. While Gwen kept the collector restrained with mana bindings, Ben and Kevin approached the central console. Without discussion, they each placed a hand on opposite sides of the control matrix. Ben activated the Omnitrix, but instead of transforming, he channeled its energy directly into the console, a new ability that felt as natural as breathing. Simultaneously, Kevin absorbed the console's material, but instead of simply taking on its properties, he redirected the energy flow within the system itself, guiding it where they needed it to go. This is incredible, Ben murmured as they worked in perfect sync. I can feel the whole system, every connection, every power flow. Same here, Kevin replied, his hands glowing with absorbed energy. It's like having a complete schematic in my head. The central apparatus responded to their combined efforts, the artificial star at its center pulsing with increasing brightness as they redirected its energy. Warning, an automated voice announced throughout the facility. Containment protocols disengaging. Specimen preservation status changing to release mode. The collector struggled against Gwen's mana bindings. You cannot simply release them all simultaneously. The power signatures must be carefully reintegrated. The process requires precise calibration for each unique pattern. Should have thought of that before you started collecting people, Gwen replied unsympathetically. Throughout the facility, the crystalline containers began to open one by one, their preserved essences flowing outward through the energy conduits toward the containment pods where their original hosts were kept. On the chamber walls, status displays showed hundreds of reintegration processes occurring simultaneously. It's working, Ben said, watching the displays. The powers are returning to their owners. Kevin nodded, still focused on controlling the energy flows. But the system's straining to handle this many transfers at once. We need to stabilize the central core or this whole place could blow. Ben glanced at the artificial star pulsing erratically at the center of the apparatus. I think I can help with that. Without removing his hand from the console, he reached toward the star with his free hand. Green energy extended from his palm, reminiscent of Gwen's mana but distinctly different, transformation energy rather than magical essence. It wrapped around the unstable core, containing its fluctuations. How are you doing that? Gwen asked, amazed. Not sure exactly, Ben admitted, strain evident in his voice. It's like having access to the Omnitrix's energy without needing to transform. Like I can, project it somehow. The collector watched with scientific fascination despite its captive status. The hybrid energy has granted you externalized access to the Omnitrix's transformation matrix. Unprecedented. Kevin, meanwhile, had his own hands full maintaining the thousands of simultaneous power transfers. His absorption abilities seemed not just restored but enhanced, able to manipulate energy flows rather than simply absorb and redirect them. Almost there, he grunted, sweat beading on his forehead. 90% complete. Max's voice came through their communicators, urgent and confused, what's happening? The containment pods are opening all over the facility. The prisoners are regaining consciousness, and their powers. That's us, Grandpa, Ben replied, still focusing on stabilizing the central core. We're shutting this place down and giving everyone back what the collector stole from them. Good work, Max said, relief evident in his voice. But we might have a situation. Some of these beings aren't exactly friendly, and they're pretty angry about being captured. As if to emphasize his point, a distant explosion echoed through the facility, followed by alarm sirens. Great, Gwen muttered. A prison break with superpowered angry aliens. Just what we needed. Transfer process 98% complete, Kevin reported, ignoring the chaos. Almost done. The collector's 4 eyes narrowed. You have no idea what you've done. Some of those specimens were contained for good reason, dangerous beings whose powers threatened entire worlds. We'll deal with that after everyone's free, Ben replied firmly. No one deserves to be kept as part of your collection, no matter what they've done. With a final pulse of energy, the transfer process completed. Throughout the facility, containment pods opened fully, releasing their occupants, some confused, some immediately destructive, all free for the first time in who knew how long. Ben and Kevin stepped back from the console, both breathing heavily from the exertion but looking satisfied. Transfer complete, Kevin confirmed, checking the readouts. Everyone's got their powers back. Now we just need to deal with the prison riot, Gwen said, gesturing toward the sounds of chaos echoing through the facility. And decide what to do with him, Ben added, looking at the collector, still bound in Gwen's mana restraints. The alien regarded them with what might have been resignation. My life's work, destroyed in minutes. Centuries of careful collection and preservation, undone by children. Your life's work was kidnapping people and stealing what made them special, Ben replied. I'm not losing any sleep over ending it. Kevin's hand shifted back to normal as he approached the collector. The question is what happens to you now? Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors burst open. Max Tennyson entered, accompanied by the plumber team and several of the freed Earth scientists. But they weren't alone, behind them came a diverse group of aliens, all wearing expressions that ranged from confused to outright hostile. Ben, Gwen, Kevin, Max greeted them, looking relieved but tense. Good work. But we've got a situation developing. One of the aliens, a tall, crystalline being similar to Diamond Head but with multiple arms, stepped forward. This is the central chamber, it stated, its voice resonating like wind through crystal. And that, it pointed at the restrained collector, is the one who imprisoned us. The group of freed aliens moved forward with clear intent. The collector, for the first time, showed signs of genuine alarm. Wait, Ben said, stepping between the advancing aliens and their target. I understand you're angry, and you have every right to be. But we can't just, you do not dictate justice here, wielder of the Omnitrix, another alien interrupted, this one resembling a Pyronite but with blue flames instead of red. This being has committed crimes against thousands of us. Some have been imprisoned for decades, their bodies kept in stasis while their powers, their very essences, were extracted for his collection. Gwen maintained her mana restraints on the collector but looked uncertain. We understand your anger, but there are proper authorities. The proper authorities failed to find us, a third alien said, humanoid but with skin that shifted colors like an optical illusion. Failed to stop him. You only succeeded because he invited you here as part of yet another experiment. Kevin glanced at Ben. They've got a point. Ben hesitated, torn between his instinct to protect even the worst criminals from vigilante justice and his understanding of the legitimate grievances before him. The crystalline alien raised a hand, silencing the growing murmurs from the group. We do not seek revenge, Tennyson. We seek containment. The collector has demonstrated he cannot be trusted with freedom. The irony of imprisoning the imprisoner is not lost on us. What do you propose? Max asked, ever the diplomat. His own technology turned against him, the crystalline being answered. A containment pod, modified to prevent escape but not to extract his essence. A lifetime to contemplate his crimes. The collector's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You cannot. My research is over, Ben finished firmly. He looked at the gathered former prisoners, then at his team, and finally at his grandfather. I think that's fair. But the facility needs to be dismantled. No more collections, no more power extraction. Agreed, the crystalline alien said with a curt nod. Many of us have scientific knowledge. We will ensure the technology is deconstructed properly, after we use it one last time. Max looked to Ben, silently asking if he was certain about this decision. Ben nodded slowly. The plumbers will provide oversight, Max declared. To ensure everything is handled according to galactic law. The collector struggled against its restraints. You cannot simply erase scientific knowledge of this magnitude. The preservation of unique power signatures is vital to understanding the fundamental forces of the universe. Knowledge gained through kidnapping and essentially torture isn't knowledge worth having, Ben replied. You can explain your theories from inside your containment pod. As the former prisoners led the collector away to prepare its new home, Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and Max gathered to take stock of the situation. You three look different, Max observed, studying them carefully. Something happened in here besides shutting down the collector's operation. Ben and Kevin exchanged glances. You could say that, Ben replied, raising his hand and demonstrating the new energy projection ability, green Omnitrix energy forming a small construct above his palm. And I've got some new tricks too, Kevin added, his hand shifting to Diamond Head crystal without touching anything. Gwen looked between them with a mixture of concern and curiosity. They absorbed some kind of hybrid energy that the collector had extracted from them during the original power transfer. It seems to have enhanced them both. Max's expression grew worried. Enhanced how, exactly? Is this going to be a problem like before? I don't think so, Ben said thoughtfully. It feels different. Controlled. Like the energy found its proper balance between us. The addiction aspect seems gone, Kevin confirmed. I can feel the absorption ability, but it's not hungry. Like before. It's just there, like a tool instead of a craving. Max still looked skeptical. We'll need to run full diagnostics when we get back to Earth. Make sure there are no unexpected side effects. Fair enough, Ben agreed. But first, we need to help sort out this situation. 3,000 freed prisoners, some of whom probably don't have homes to go back to anymore. Already on it, Max said. Tetrax is contacting Plumber HQ for transport ships. We'll need to catalog everyone, determine their origins, and arrange safe passage. Going to be a logistical nightmare, Kevin noted. Better than leaving them in those pods, Gwen countered. As they discussed next steps, Ben found himself strangely at peace despite the chaos around them. The phantom sensations that had plagued him since the original power transfer were gone, replaced by a new stability. He could feel the Omnitrix on his wrist not just as a device but as a connected part of himself, responsive in ways it had never been before. And when he looked at Kevin, he could sense a similar equilibrium, the constant struggle with absorption addiction replaced by confident control. They had both been changed by this experience, but unlike before, the change felt right. Balance restored, but with something new added to the equation. Something neither of them fully understood yet, but would have plenty of time to explore together. 1 month later the Forever Knights never stood a chance. They'd broken into a plumber storage facility outside Bellwood, hoping to steal alien tech for their endless crusade against extraterrestrial influence on Earth. Instead, they found themselves facing Ben, Gwen, and Kevin in a confrontation that was almost embarrassingly one-sided. On your left, Tennyson. Kevin called, his body coated in steel absorbed from a nearby storage container. He blocked a laser blast aimed at Ben, the energy dissipating harmlessly across his metallic form. Ben, currently transformed as Swampfire, didn't even need to look. He raised his hand, and a green energy shield materialized, deflecting another blast while he launched seed pods with his other hand. Got it covered, he replied, the seeds instantly growing into entangling vines that wrapped around 3 knights. Gwen floated above the battlefield, her mana constructs corralling the remaining knights into a central location. Is it just me, or are these guys getting easier to beat? It's not them, Kevin said, shifting his metal arms into hammer-like weapons to knock aside knights trying to flank him. It's us. We're just that good. It was true. In the month since their confrontation with the Collector, their teamwork had reached new heights. Ben and Kevin's enhanced abilities had brought a new dimension to their fighting style, Ben able to project Omnitrix energy without transforming when needed, Kevin capable of instantaneous material absorption and manipulation without physical contact. But more than the physical changes, something deeper had shifted between them. The experience of sharing consciousness through the hybrid energy had left them with an unspoken understanding, an ability to anticipate each other's moves without communication. The last knight fell to Gwen's mana bindings, and the battle ended as quickly as it had begun. That's all of them, Ben said, reverting to human form with a flash of green light. Plumbers can take it from here. As they waited for the cleanup crew to arrive, Kevin leaned against the storage facility wall, a thoughtful expression on his face. Something on your mind, Levin? Ben asked, noticing his friend's unusual quiet. Kevin shrugged. Just thinking about everything that's happened. A month ago, I was freaking out about losing my powers, you were going power mad with absorption abilities, and we were both pretty much at each other's throats. And now? Gwen prompted, joining them. Now it's like we found some kind of... I don't know. Balance? Kevin looked uncomfortable with the philosophical turn of the conversation. Whatever that hybrid energy did to us, it's like it fixed something that was broken in both of us. Ben nodded in understanding. For me, it's like the Omnitrix feels more natural now. Less like a device, more like a part of me. And that new energy projection thing? It's like having access to transformation power without needing to fully transform. And I'm not constantly fighting the absorption addiction anymore, Kevin added. It's just, there when I need it, quiet when I don't. Gwen smiled, slipping her hand into Kevin's. I'm just glad you two aren't trying to kill each other anymore. The constant tension was getting old. Hey, we weren't that bad, Ben protested. Kevin and Gwen gave him identical skeptical looks. Okay, maybe we were pretty bad, Ben conceded with a laugh. But it all worked out in the end, right? As the plumber transport arrived to collect the captured knights, Ben found himself reflecting on the journey they'd taken. What had started as an accident with alien tech, Kevin's powers transferring to him, had evolved into something none of them could have predicted. They had faced addiction, temptation, loss, and ultimately found a new equilibrium. Not by returning everything to its original state, but by finding a better balance, one that incorporated what they had learned and experienced along the way. You know what's weird? Ben said as they walked back to Kevin's car. I kind of miss those absorption abilities sometimes. Not the addiction part, but just, the connection to the world around me. Feeling the materials, the energy. Kevin glanced at him. You've got something better now. That Omnitrix energy projection is way cooler than basic absorption. And less likely to turn you into a power-mad supervillain, Gwen added dryly. True, Ben acknowledged with a smile. Plus, I've got my full alien roster back. And, he added, bumping Kevin's shoulder companionably, I don't have to worry about accidentally stealing your girlfriend when I get power drunk and go all dark side. Kevin snorted. Like she'd have you. Hey! Ben protested while Gwen laughed. As they drove back into Bellwood, the evening sun casting long shadows across the road, Ben felt a sense of contentment that had been missing before this whole adventure began. His connection to the Omnitrix was stronger, his friendship with Kevin deeper, and his understanding of the responsibilities that came with power more profound. Sometimes, it took walking in someone else's shoes, or absorbing someone else's powers, to truly appreciate what you had. And sometimes, what you ended up with after a crisis wasn't just a return to normal, but something better. Balance restored, but improved. Different, but right. Ben glanced at the Omnitrix on his wrist, which pulsed with a subtle green glow in response to his attention, a new symbiosis that felt like it had always been meant to be. Whatever challenges came next, they would face them together, not as they had been, but as they had become. Stronger. Wiser. More connected. More balanced. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.